I'm amazing. I'm amazing. I'm amazing. Oh, what the hell? Oh, he killed me.
I'm getting brutally slaughtered.
No, that was an accident. No, that was an accident. That was an accident. Ooh, was that a triple collab? Get up! No! Ah! No! Get up! Get up! No! Oh! No! Why this happened to me? Oh! What did I do? It's an accident. Oh, what? What? Why? Why? What? I hate this game. I freaking hate this game. Oh, I fell. I did the water bucket thing. I did the water bucket thing.
Nice.
Don't touch him. No!
Last Pokemon left, and our full team still with us. The nerves were high, but seeing that it was a Torkoal gave us some relief.
Torkoal. I changed to the wrong guy. Hydro pump the hell out of him. Let's go!
Just like that, we defeated the champion of the Hoenn region in our first ever Pokemon Nuzlocke.
I didn't press the button. Such a failure. Now I'm more bright. Not in the head though. What's up, guys? How's everyone doing? What's up, Prince? What's up, Nathan? What's up, Doctor? Yeah, Nathan, I'm gonna try to, after stream, I'll try to do it as well. Okay. We got a couple of videos today. Jesus. The lighting is not that good. Okay, the lighting's okay. We got a couple of videos today. Not too many. But it should be good. Hopefully, if you guys sent good videos. I'm gonna lower the background music just a tad, because I think I always have it a bit loud. But I don't know. Damn, Prince trying to jump. Okay, let's get straight into it. You have to send videos through Twitter. Hey, Cam! What's up? Long time no see. Through Discord. Damn, I should use my Twitter more though, but through Discord. Through Discord, all the videos from... So every week we do this, and all the videos from... We're gonna watch all the videos people sent during this week for today. And then after we finish those, then we'll take like requests on Twitch chat. So if you're already here, you could just, you know, I guess wait for us to watch everything, and then you could request. How you doing, Cam? I finally mined the church in Minecraft. Is that hard to do? My character is just feeling a little jumpy. Don't worry about it. What are you using Jump King? Wait, do we have Jump King? Who's it? Oh, you're using Luffy. Hey. Oh yeah, you did use Luffy before too. All right, first video. This is a song that Rosquila put, I think.
Is there anyone that you've ever just felt so...
Hello there.
Let's just do this. What is this?
My heart aching, I'm shaking. Now don't be mistaken.
Am I gonna get copyrighted for this? Yeah, IQ is very low. Still that perfect number.
It's Jim Carrey, but Harry. He's not really that scary. It's okay to be...
Wait, is it actually Jim Carrey? Is Jim Carrey still alive? That's not what I wanted to look for. Is Jim Carrey the Grinch? Oh, he is the Grinch. I didn't know that.
Be wary of that derriere, but you would beware. My feelings obscene.
Damn, the song's mad good. What the hell?
Oh, excuse me, I'm getting all flustered.
I never knew you were freaky like that.
I never knew you were freaky like that.
Oh.
Other bitches be wary. I know he's worshipped by many. And when you
Hey.
watch him around town in his hat and his gown, he's bound to drown and glisten by the
What is
by the
this?
pound. He gets grissy. Grinch pussy. Tis the season, tis the time.
Grissy.
Mr. Grinchy's in his prime. Green with envy because he's fine. And
Prime.
I'm gonna make him
Prime
mine.
sub.
When I come up to the function,
Function says,
bite my finger, skill seduction, clear my throat and give instruction. You're an E, my Mr. Grinch, punish me with every inch, waist cinch.
What the hell is
Beat me
this?
like in sync.
Sorry, I wanted to see comments.
Though he's grumpy, I'm aware. When
Yo,
I'm
not the Grussy.
What
What is this, YouTube chat? With emotes? Oh my god. I don't know why everything's messed up. Because I cleaned yesterday, surprisingly. It looks weird now.
Dreaming about slurping that gherkin until he starts squirting. Somebody get me a muzzle, cause I'm about to guzzle me thick, make me come me quick. My holy mission is a nocturnal emission. I'm begging you, please. Now I'm telling you, his heart ain't the only thing that really three sizes that night.
That was beautiful, and I heard every second of it. God damn it. Stupid ads. Let me see. I'm gonna put the music louder and then put it lower. Because I'm a genius. Was that not genius? Guys, sometimes I'm amazing. We'll lower it to like that, so it's like background music.
Where is it? Oh, there it is. Ah!
Who's Linus?
Actually, it fell pretty flat. It's probably fine.
Who's Linus? Who's Linus? Do you guys know who Linus is?
For example. Wha-bam! A photo sense.
You got a lot of tips in here.
Yep. All the tips.
Is this the right? Is that the right one?
That's my thing. Stop.
Oh, sorry.
Lol.
LTTstore.com.
Well, apparently he has a beard. I don't even know who that is.
That's my thing. D-Brand sent this, which should be fairly obvious. Should be fairly obvious.
That's pretty
from
funny,
the
actually.
skin on the back of the phone. Oi!
Oi!
Right around.
Oi!
Here. Not a word. After I remove the hard drive.
Bro.
Look, I know Gamers Nexus.
Does he do this live? I don't get it.
What just fell
Not a
off of
clue, but they seem to be dropping everything they own. True.
I don't know. I wonder if like Kingston was.
Bro, it looks like he has a beard in a lot of video of these clips. Are you really a Linus fan? No, of course I've heard of Linus. But I just don't really remember what it is.
Just.
They have extra. Oh.
I think I've heard of it before. It's like a tech thing, right?
Why would you do that? What?
He does tech stuff.
Pardon me. Why did you just throw the RAM?
I was gesturing.
Who's that guy?
Hey, look at this guy.
I can't stand that guy.
Did she just drop the memory?
Yeah.
Must have been my influence.
Is that the one you threw?
Otherwise, I'll make you an RMA, and then you can have the system sent back to us. I know it sucks.
I managed to pull it out all the way.
That's what she said.
I think she just brute forced.
Well, I want to see if the music
Rode
is too
39
loud or not.
millisecond input delay. So, what else we got? If that's you, if you're one of these, this is.
How can you? Oh my god, he's really bad. He's really bad at this.
Gonna be wow, whoopsie daisies. This is gonna be real comfortable. This screen is broken.
Oh, you
Or
can
not the
barely
screen,
hear the music.
The protector that was on it. All right then. Oh god.
Oh, Linus!
Like you can't hear the music
let's
at
get
all.
this puppy
Huh?
opened up. So we've got a power cord. This out.
I would ask you guys to help me out.
900. Okay.
You don't need to hear the music. It's fine.
Oops. Yeah, you're right. Yvonne's gonna get mad. Was that?
Oh,
Me? That couldn't have been me.
he's so bad.
Drop test. Oh man, this desk is like.
Does he have a shirt that's a keyboard? Enhance. Wait, bad enhancement. His shirt is a keyboard. What the hell? But it's all in silver. That's so weird.
Ow. Oh,
I'm gonna write a note
arm.
for the music.
Chipset, because
Lower
Epic
music.
is technically an SoC.
Oh, snap. Bro, he's worse than me.
Multiple 4K monitors on a single graphics card.
What the hell?
You know what? I've actually got a really good feeling about this. Is that graphics card okay? Oh, yeah. This,
He's gonna drop it again?
Totally on purpose. This is a dummy GPU.
Linus!
Oh, no!
Nah, that was on
Sonic came up with
purpose.
this idea that you could have. Oh, that's a shame. So we're
That's
gonna
a
go ahead
shame.
and take our distribution kind of. Get out of here. Take our distribution. Oh, God.
Jesus.
I don't know how to limbo. Do I look like a limbo expert? Ow!
Am I supposed to
All right,
laugh?
fine. We're going for the action.
I'm gonna increase the music a little. I'm trying to test out music. What is he doing? Why am I so angry?
No! I was very stuck.
I was very stuck. That's what she said.
Guys,
That's what
let's
my
just take a moment
stepsis
here,
said.
and I'd like to explain my intent. I can roll reasonably gracefully. I was intentionally doing like a...
Oopsies, oopsies.
Shut up, David. You know
Wait,
I
what?
can gracefully. I was intentionally doing like a... Shut up, David. You know I can. I know you can. I was intentionally doing like a...
All his shirts are
toddler-style
just...
somersault.
All his shirts are like black shirts with the gray dots. Is it just me or is that weird? That seems kind of weird.
It was supposed to be a little awkward. It wasn't supposed to be that awkward. Linus is trying to justify his poor rolling skills. That's not even true. Okay, I can roll.
Oh, he is streaming. Okay, that makes more sense now.
Okay? There. That's
Damn,
a
that was
proper
pretty
roll.
cool.
I know how to roll.
I don't know how to
That
roll.
was just not how to do it before. What should I get?
Jesus Christ. Look at his desktop. It literally has like 7 icons on it and that's it. Sheesh. You're so sophisticated with your white... Hey! My shirt is amazing. Okay. Alrighty then. What's up, Darkness? How are ya?
What should I get? Maybe.
Yeah, this is one of my worst shirts, but yeah.
How about this A520M DS3H motherboard? Oops, I dropped it.
Wait, what?
Motherboard.
I was writing a note
Oops,
to myself.
I dropped it.
This is so dumb.
Right, okay. PCs with it.
It's so cringe.
Sorry.
You're sick? You're sick of watching Ping Pong Masters? I mean, that sucks, bro.
I said that.
I hope you feel better.
Jeez, this is ridiculous.
And I hope it's
never heard
not
of our Tech Quickie channel and you're
Tovad.
wondering, what the
Not laughing that you're sick. I'm laughing that he dropped it.
Actually took the brunt of it.
Oh, nice.
I gotta be upfront with you guys. These are challenge. Forward roll with the build. Okay, we are not doing any somersaults on the stream
What's
today.
LTT?
There will be no somersaults whatsoever.
We have banned Linus from doing somersaults on
Linus Titty? Jesus, imagine he broke his neck and died on stream. Wouldn't that be crazy? That would be so cool. It's not COVID, it's probably because of the weather change. Ah, okay.
Weapons. Am I good with a weapon? Yes. Am I carrying weapons on me? Always. Pistols at sunset, the bullets don't reach that far. Aha, check out this weapon I just made. Stay still. Predator missiles. They're working in league with the torpedoes. Technical air.
Torpedo, yo! You know, I was editing today, okay? I was editing a video. Wait, I have to put the next song on. It got stuck. I was editing a video. Excuse me. And there was Sharpedo there, right? It's a Pokemon, and I said Sharpedo, and I thought I was funny. And he stole my joke, so. I'm perplexed on how this video is going to go on for 33 minutes. I am as well. I'm laughing at a sick person. I mean, what's wrong with that?
Right. Why? What's
Sometimes you just want to have fun. Nice.
All this and more on this episode of In the Battlefield. Get it? Sorry if I sound weird. It's because I went to the Asian supermarket today.
Yeah?
Because
Chinese. That's the Chinese supermarket, so pretty bad products. It's not the Japanese market, anyway.
we bought some AstroTurf.
Fake grass.
Yeah, I didn't want to.
No one's Chinese here, right? No one's. All right, let's
Take
continue.
care of it. So we astroturfed some of the backyard.
He's joke.
right?
He's joke.
It looks like shit. Anyway, the neighbor's cat has started shitting on the astroturf. What am I gonna? I can't just kill the neighbor's cat. I don't think I can get away with that. I didn't want to get into it with the neighbors either. Excuse me. Do you know?
It's so funny when people use stock footage. Isn't that a guy? Isn't that like some famous guy? Isn't that the guy? Who is that? He's the guy. He's a guy. He's no way that oh I thought he was advertising incognito mode on something. It's all fun and games until true. No, it's not Wait, no, it's not Dr. Phil. It's some other guy. It's not Dr. Phil. Editor deserves a raise. Wait. Dr. Phil? It's not Dr. Phil. No, it's he's so hot. It's not Dr. Phil. It's some other guy, right? Oh, do I still have that on? I forgot to turn that off. Oops.
He's a cat in the same way that you can a dog.
That's right.
Cats are a law unto themselves.
So I went to the Chinese supermarket, right? Because obviously the thing to do is
oh, I told you it was Chinese. I'm so smart.
Buy about 3 liters of chili oil.
Oh, that says chili oil. I can read some Chinese, actually. This is actually a Chinese supermarket. Pretty cool.
And then fill a weed sprayer with it, and then just start.
Bro, oh, Harold Kumar? Wait, Harold Old Man. Bro, his name's not even Harold. His name is Andras. Ass. Oh, Hide the Pain. Yeah, he's the Hide the Pain guy. Wait, is he dead? He's 75. He's hungry. Oh my god, there's a TED Talk on him. I need to get ad blocker. I mean, I need to get YouTube Premium. I didn't know his name was Harold. Or whatever, Andras.
Is to make
Bro, how many ads are there? The mean guy cannot die. He will never die. People die.
That was me, 73.
Oh, I actually saw this. Wait, I don't know if I saw this video. I saw a TED Talk on a guy who was a meme. Maybe it was him.
That is copy.
Yes, I did see this. I saw this video. I actually legit saw this video, like no joke. Why big boys don't cry?
B, did you at any point during that think the words, that ball is going to come down because of gravity? Right, actually, and so neither had my friend, and I suspect neither did anyone else in here. And I hadn't either at the time. My point is that there are these things going on in our mind all the time.
I've cried before. Okay.
Start spraying the whole garden.
We're 1 minute in.
To the point where it just kind of
YouTube Premium, yes,
and then
yes.
it starts trying to take a shit, and then it goes, oh god.
It turns the grass red, or it turns the shit red, and you're hoping that this is gonna like scare the cat. So something's going wrong here.
I need to talk to a doctor. So, you know, the grass is looking a lot redder than it usually does.
Wait, this is the AstroTurf. So
Yeah.
you've essentially just dyed fake grass red.
Yeah, pretty much.
Why does he speak
the whole
British?
place reeks of chili oil. And if the cat shits there anyway, then boy, is he going to have won this war.
Could you not have just let the shitting continue? And
No, it's now
This is good editing.
shit. He's taking like
I mean, this part is pretty easy, but still.
3 shits a day. Like, he doesn't even keep it to the sort of back of the property where you wouldn't notice it. It's like right on the front. That's the first thing a guest would see.
The story is long. Too guys, try to send like videos max 15 minutes. 30 minutes is a bit.
Or who's ever slept with the most women?
Hey, now you're thinking. But how would you prove that you would sleep with the most number of women in order to become the king?
I just like the idea that a guy would show up and just be like, yeah, I'm running for president, and here is a...
We might come back to it. Let's watch everything else first. Wait, what?
Holy shit, I thought I was playing Mario.
That would have been so much funnier if I didn't see the title. We gotta do one of those, you know what we gotta do one day? We gotta add it as a media share. So it just pops up so I don't see the title. I think that does that.
Donkey Kong.
December.
I think we watched this last week.
Where'd you get all those bananas? Donkey Kong December. There he is.
Donkey Kong. Why do they show this guy all the time with Donkey Kong? Like, who is this guy? And what relevance does he have for Donkey Kong?
I remember battling with his mouth shape.
Donkey Kong December. Donkey Kong December.
And who made this song?
Donkey Kong December.
What the? Oh, is that Kwanzaa? Oh my god, it is Kwanzaa. Ugh, it's the worst Hanukkah. I mean, what?
Hello?
What's up, Mac? How are ya?
Hit you in the head with a big old donkey. Shoot you in the head with a big old monkey. Monkey Kong December. Donkey Kong December.
Basically just took a spear and flattened it, then bent it.
I don't even know what they're saying. There's no subtitles. What?
That's Donkey Kong's mouth. Donkey Kong December. Donkey Kong December. Every day this month, I will upload a Donkey Kong video. Say I won't do it.
Wait, every day this month I will... Oh my god, No, he hasn't. He lied. He's a liar. But he put Dunk video here. He didn't put Donkey Kong in every video. That's a lie. Wait, he lied. You lied. Two plus two equals fish? True. And 1 plus 1 equals window. I think. It's kind of catchy. Oh shit! What the hell? Wait, was that a thing? He didn't do it. He did. Is no one addressing the fact that he didn't do it? That's kind of annoying me. Wait. 3D Donkey Kong pops out. Okay, whatever. I kind of wanted to see that. We watched this last week, right?
Shepard, there's something I wanted to mention.
I think.
Yeah, we saw this last week. Wait, what?
You're my friend now.
Copyright free. What is that? Is that a cat? What the hell? Oh, it is. Daily dose of cats. Are cats that small? Kazakhstan. Donkey Kong is banned in Kazakhstan? Nice. Instead of the big band story mode gameplay with the fights included, show this one unless you feel like having those more or less extra 10 minutes. Without the fight, it's around 15 minutes with just the story parts. Okay. Wait, you're talking about one of the Skullgirls video, right? Instead of this one, right? Okay. Thank you. Bro, this is the dumb thing. It's so dumb. With the power of friendship, everything. Your boy, it's so dumb. Imagine enemies also had that. It's so dumb. I wonder what people say. The power friendship made him dodge a fool. I mean, that is pretty anime-esque, right? So I can't complain too much from it. Oh, what's this? What happens if you use transform on Shadow? I don't even know what Shadow Giratina is because I never played Platinum. I'm gonna send a cringe video. All right. Wait, what? Oh, he just turns you into a regular Giratina, yeah? And you steal all the moves? It would be cool if you become Shadow too, right? New glitch?
Hey,
what are these glitches? I don't know any glitches in Diamond and Pearl. Oh, I don't know. I heard one you could get like a Pokemon like 1 billion times. Wait, what? Oh. Oh, he's in the sky. Yo, that's cool. It's crazy how people were reporting glitches and like in 24 hours, during a 24-hour stream, there was like no glitch. That's so interesting. You send a video? Okay. Send it on chat when we finish all these videos. Because I'm not going to check Discord until next week. So, unless you want me to see it next week.
Especially for me. I used to be a cop. And I always tried to do the right thing. But I got one thing wrong.
Damn, it sounds mad nice.
About cost me my life.
I don't know if it's copyrighted though.
I thought the police were supposed to catch the bad guys. It doesn't work like that.
Damn! They're not bad guys, they're bad girls. Anyway. We should do that thing where you watch and like it follows your eyes. I don't know how hard it is to set up, but follow eyes when watching videos. That would be fun, right? The music is really good, yeah. I believe you. Especially since you, I heard some of the songs you requested. Yeah, I know, but it was just... On the take from the Medici Mafia. I can't guess what happened next. Oh no, wait, I already knew what happened. Whoa! Oh, I thought it was showing this guy's stomach, but it was just his, it was just the reflection of the light. You guys can't see it because of the camera. Excuse me.
They left me for dead.
They thought I was gone.
Turns out that I'm
Why does this guy have a pig nose?
full of surprises.
The heck? Imagine not being subbed to PP. Has it been 11 months?
The Skullgirls.
Oh no, it's been 7 months. Oh, okay. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, what? Well, it couldn't be you, Mac, because it hasn't been 11 months.
For a while. To find the skull heart, I gotta track the Skullgirl. To track the Skullgirl.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like people who follow but never subbed. That's fine. Not everyone can, but I obviously appreciate everyone who subscribes.
The River King Casino.
The River King Casino. He looks weird like that. Medici sounds so. They literally, you know, they stole the. Oh. I like the characters in this game. Medici, look, it sounds like the Mafia Gangs New York. You got Medici, Lucici. Which one are they? I thought they would copy one of them. Okay, I don't know. Never mind. It sounds very Italian-ish. Esque. 11 is just 7 in base 6.
What are you doing here?
Thought I'd try my luck.
I don't even know what that means.
Well, too bad. The show caught you.
What?
I have a feeling there ain't just poker chips in those pockets.
Ooh.
Open your coat.
Open your coat.
I've seen what I need to see. Turns out this just ain't my scene. Why don't you get back to entertaining your adoring patrons with your acrobat?
Are her arms above her head?
I'll see myself.
I don't get how she works.
I'm not stupid.
Medici.
I don't know what you think you're up to.
Yeah, I figured it is a mafia gang in the game, but I was wondering if it relates to a real one.
Well, he needs a damn good reason to be here. Get it?
Get it. Instead of having the digits 0 to 9 like we do in base 10, it's just from 0 to 5. What is base 10? That sounds familiar. With the fight, some of it might make a bit more sense.
You don't know what you're asking for.
Well, I don't want to watch the whole game. What does second encore mean?
More like one-man army.
Oh, he beat her up, and she's blushing. I see why you like this game, Prince. That's her hat. But her hat has arms.
Was a time when I cared about wasting the Medicis.
Bro, this game's gonna want me to make me want to go to the bathroom.
I'm more worried about wasting my time.
Oh, never mind. Under attack! Wait.
Since the Skullgirl didn't stick around, it looks like this was a setup.
Damn, he got set up.
But I've got somewhere else I gotta be. You watch your step from now on.
Damn, he didn't kill her.
Showed up sooner than I expected, you old
What the hell? It's him.
copycat. Who are you supposed to be? There's only one big band. You ain't fooling nobody.
Why is his name Big Band? Are on borrowed time.
It's over. Even cloaked in your form, my superiority will be clear.
If you think you're scaring me, then you really don't know a damn thing about me. Let me teach you
What the hell?
something.
Damn, you guys gonna fight?
Might be made of metal, but you're the
What?
one with the tin ear. You might try to copy my style, but
Oh, I see. So you play as this guy for a lot of... Oh, this is this guy's story mode. Gotcha. Because each character has different story mode.
got in here and trashed the place. And while they were doing it,
Wait, do you mind if I look at some gameplay?
somebody else kept me out.
Oh, he has a saxophone on his back. I get it. I didn't even realize that. He has like a saxophone on his back and like a
Damn.
yeah, I don't know. You don't mind? Okay. What Skullgirls gameplay. 9 years ago. How old is this game? Skullgirl Relostot. 2012. Sheesh. That's like a long time ago. I'm just gonna silence it for copyright stuff. Ooh, there's so many cute Oh god, what the hell is that? Yeah, it looks like your everyday fighting game with some cool story behind it. Oh, what was that? Wait, what was that? Damn! It's pretty old, but still growing to this day. Cool. My screen is blurring. I thought it said sexy mode. It might have. What the? What is this? Jesus. Like, where is this game made? Is it America? It's good gameplay. Good gameplay.
When the world was still in its infancy, a trinity of Euclidean horrors masquerading as beautiful goddesses
So nerdy.
looked upon it and saw that man was violent and impure. Thus, the trio created an artifact known as the Skull Heart, built to grant any wish a person might desire, so long
It
as
sounds
they were
so,
pure of heart.
so
Of course,
nerdy.
if they weren't pure of heart, the object would corrupt the wish and turn their body into a psychic monster. But that was kind of the point. The object was then left on Earth where countless generations of women sought it out, bringing death and destruction ever
Oh, it's a women thing.
in the contemporary times, most of the planet falls under the rule of the Canopy Kingdom, which is controlled and turned by the Renoir royal family and the Medici Mafia. When done,
Medici.
a shape-shifting monster nun who works for the Trinity seeds the skull heart with a gift of
Shape-shifting
opposites.
monster
The singers
nun.
are brutally murdered, and the heart eventually moves into the possession of a warlock.
That's such a crazy
He
thing.
begins wiping out the Medicis to a point where other girls augmented by ancient transforming parasites figure out what's going on and come looking for her. Now it's up to you to pick a girl, or a giant tuba man, fight your way to the lair of the
Or a
Skull
giant
Heart,
tuba
and
man.
defeat the Skullgirls 3
Oh,
super
that's right, that's
straightforward.
right. So they're the Frieza. They're the anti-whatever, and then the big guy joins them because they beat him up. Because he
Claiming the
tried
heart
to
for
do the right
yourself,
thing.
in what definitely, probably will not backfire ever. Have fun.
Have fun. What the heck? What the heck? I've never heard of these. How do you guys know all these channels? Game Boy. Lore in a minute. Is it always her voice? Oh, okay.
Was taking a train to work one day when he noticed a businessman passing the time by pressing keys on his calculator. From this incident, Yokoi was inspired to create the Game & Watch series. In the early
What?
1980s, the Game & Watch were a lineup of portable games by Nintendo that used the technology from the calculators of the era, namely their LCD screens. Yokoi's design philosophy was called
Interesting.
lateral thinking of withered technology, which meant instead of trying to innovate with the newest and most powerful hardware, Yokoi believed in using existing technologies in new and creative ways.
That's mad
By
cool.
using this older tech, the price point for the Game & Watch was reasonable and one of the reasons for its success and popularity. Each Game & Watch could play only one game, but that would change with Yokoi's next and most famous invention, the Game Boy. By the late 80s, Nintendo had found a huge success with the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Sorry, I got
Yokoi wanted to combine the
distracted.
portability of his Game & Watch line with the interchangeable cartridges and 8-bit processing power of the NES. And thus, the Game Boy was born. Despite the availability of color screens and more powerful CPUs, Yokoi adamantly stuck to his design principles, and the Game Boy was launched with a monochrome.
Oh, so it was able to put they were able to put more color schemes there. Search up big band combos. Yeah, I'll do this after this. But you can also play as someone that's an even worse villain than her. Oh. Ping pong
Screen that could only display 4 shades of gray. Meanwhile, competitors like the Sega Game Gear had color backlit screens, and the Atari Lynx had both a color screen and a powerful 16-bit processor, which allowed for the Super NES Mode 7-like effects. But Yokoi's Game Boy would prove to be the victor, as what these competitors failed to realize is that the more powerful technologies drained the batteries quicker than you could say carbon footprint. The Game Boy offered almost twice the amount of battery life and also had the
Twice
exclusive
the
rights to a
amount of
little
battery
game
life.
called Tetris. Eventually, the Game Boy sold over 120
Oh, this is not the Game Boy SP.
million units and
Right?
launched franchises like Kirby and Pokemon. Have fun.
That's cool. That was cool. I didn't know that. Big band combos. Please watch video. I've been waiting. Well, you didn't send the videos over the week. If you send them over the week, they would have been in the list. Don't worry. This is the last thing I'll watch, okay? Then I'll watch your video and then Nathan's. And then whatever you guys want to send. Did he say sex god? Oh, shite. That's so cool. There's so much info on the screen, though. Wait, is that an actual move? Or did someone edit that in? Okay, someone must have edited that in. Jeez, that's so cool. He looks mad cool. He reminds me of a guy from Mega Man. I just remembered a hidden gem on the GBA. Those are all actual moves, even with the music? Jesus, you've been busy? Okay, okay. 32, I'm not gonna watch 32 minutes. Baruto trained by Kakashi? Wait, what? What? Alright, we're gonna go 2 times speed here. I want to say I didn't upload this in the Burrito channel because it's become a meme at this point, and I just don't want to manage 2. What is this? If this video gets support, huh? Okay, can we see the actual video? There we go. Hey, Tyler, what's up? How are ya? Love seeing you here. The story starts after the academy exams. What? This is like how? I'm so confused. I'm so confused how videos like this get like. I don't get. It doesn't have millions of views, but like, bro, the first minute you're just texting. Just tell me what's gonna happen. Why you gotta text it to me? Jesus, I know I'm a zoomer, but what? What? What is this? This is so weird. You're right, it's just cringy. Hello to YouTube. He is made out of a lot of different instruments. It's mad cool. Could you watch the story off stream and tell me what you think? If you like it, I might know of another character story you might like if you like his, or you could watch them yourself. 30 minutes. I'll watch some of it for sure. Can you DM it to me? Because I closed it, unfortunately. Gomen nasai.
Hey, Kakashi-sensei.
Boruto.
Yeah, me.
I want to train under you. Ew. Sounds pretty sus, bro. Okay. Bro, this is 2 times speed, and it's like, how do people watch this? I'm retired. Because I don't want to. Lol. That was a good one. Mac. Oh my god. He did buy I'm old. That's funny. You know it does nothing, right? You used all your points for nothing. Or maybe for something, you'll see. Fights included or no? Fights included. I probably won't watch it in its entirety, but yo, bye, I'm old gang. What does that sound? Oh, Jesus. Guys, it's raining like crazy. What the frick? What the frick? Well, I'll be right back. I gotta check the front door. I didn't clean the leaves recently. It's not good. I should have ran an ad. There was nothing there. So it really is raining hard. Yep.
You have to train me.
Bro, what? That must have taken a lot of time, though. In Japanese? Wait, what? Yo, the story's amazing. I'm just absorbing all this information. That's how good I am. Sasuke comes. Hinata comes on Sasuke's face. Then Baruto's chilling. Naruto came out of nowhere. Baruto leave. Being a Hokage is stressful. You wouldn't understand. You're a child. Damn, this is so fascinating. This is so fascinating. Rasen Shuriken. Oh my god. What? I literally watched the show. Why do I, what? Mac, what is this? This was the next video.
Hey there.
Oh. No, it's still raining. Not as hard, but yeah. Part 1 of 100. Gee, was it actually? What makes a sandwich a sandwich?
Difficult. What to do with you, hot dog? You clearly don't belong in sandwich.
A hot dog is a sandwich. What is this BS? A hot dog is a bun. Is a hot dog. It's a sandwich. There's no discussion here.
And it would be absurd to place you in Taco House. Yeah, I guess you'll join Hufflepuff.
Wait, but tacos are oh. What the hell? Aren't taco sandwiches too? No, doctor, we talked about this, but bro. So, if it's curved and you have the food inside of something, then that's a taco? I'm trying to think. If you have like... Is a banana a taco? Because you have it inside of like a thingy? Excuse me. Can't wait for the is cereal a soup.
Welcome to Food Theory, where we show you how the sausage gets made, and then we show you how
Ew.
it's classified. If there's one food that's
Nasty.
inextricably linked to American summertime celebrations, it's the hot dog. If the sun's out, and you'll find Americans buying them, grilling them, and cheering on professional eaters.
Okay, I don't trust this guy. Are hot dogs sandwiches? Okay, doctor. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, okay, describes a sandwich as a meat or poultry filling between two slices of bread, a bun, or a biscuit. Okay, a hot dog is a sandwich, bruh. A taco is a taco. Look at definition of taco. Taco, okay, taco, definition. Don't know my location. Taco. A Mexican dish. Okay, are hot dogs Mexican? Well, some hot dogs are Mexican. Like if you have a dog that's hot. Let's go back to the video. No, bananas are a calzone, except they don't have meat, so they don't fall into this pattern at all. That's like calling a... What? How's that like calling a pencil a sandwich? Pencil's not food. You gonna listen to the government to hear what a sandwich is? Yes. Well, you're gonna listen to a YouTuber to hear what a sandwich is?
Possible amounts of them. Americans didn't invent the wiener. Americans didn't invent the bun.
Haha, the wiener.
But I'll be darned if Americans weren't the first to put a wiener on a bun, which is all we need to do to lay claim to the...
A pencil is an oversized toothpick. It kind of actually is. Yeah, I think that's right.
The invention of the hot dog. When hot dogs first came onto the scene in 1860s New York, you could have appreciated the classic...
Yo, New York. You see, Nathan? New York is the best. California, bro. New York is better. Look at that. Hot dogs come out of New York.
Quagmire they'd eventually create. I mean, when you get down to it, what is a hot dog? Is it a sandwich? Is it technically a taco? Or is a hot...
You have lead in your toothpick? Bro. Do you have a bun in your taco? What? Answer. If you could answer that question, doctor, I'll just be impressed.
Hot dog its own thing altogether. Where exactly in the food classification diagram does this unholy creation lie? This might seem trivial to you, but this is no joke here, people. These questions have been swirling around since hot dogs first came onto the scene, and the debate is only picking up steam in the internet age. People are arguing about it on Reddit, on Twitter. People are making...
Oh my god. Traditionalists. A BLT is a sandwich. A chip buddy is a sandwich. Ice cream between waffles is a sandwich. Structural neutral. Ingredient purist. True neutral. Structure. Oh, that's funny. Ice cream between waffles is a sandwich. Oh, now I want ice cream. I hate this channel.
Alignment charts about this issue, for crying out loud. If you ask me, an argument of this level of importance...
They're disgusting and you can't eat pork. Most hot dogs are made of pork, but not all hot dogs are made of pork. Therefore, your argument doesn't matter. Pencil is an oversized toothpick with lead in the center. Better? Yes, I think that's accurate. Tortilla are just flat buns, bud. What? Okay. What is tortilla made of? Why is it? It always takes so long after the song to play next song. Tortilla. Flat bread. Okay. With that logic, okay, lead is just Lead is just what the hell? Lead is just a thing. It's a mineral. It's what Prince said. It's a pencil is an oversized toothpick with lead in the center. Okay. Tortillas are just deflated naan bread. I know what naan bread is. I'm a cultured individual. Naan bread is so good. Naan bread is literally flatbread. You know how, bro? Oh my god, did I never show you guys? Bro, I had one of the sexiest naan breads in Japan in an Indian restaurant. It was so good. Okay, I know what naan bread is. Now I hate this channel. It makes me so hungry.
Calls for a ruling from the highest court in the land, the U.S.
We have
Supreme Court.
apricots.
Luckily, we got exactly that.
Would you rather have a hot dog or an apricot? Come on. You ever eat a gyro? Of course.
That in 2018 when Stephen Colbert talked to the notorious RBG. That's Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Well, you tell me what a sandwich is, and then I'll tell you if a hot dog is.
True. She's a genius. Define a sandwich, and then you could define a hot dog.
2 pieces of bread with almost any type of filling in between.
Yes! That's what a sandwich is. It's 2 pieces of bread with something in between. That's why a taco is not a sandwich, because it's not in between. It's filled inside of. And the hot dog is in between the 2 pieces of bread. It's not like a curved piece of bread with the, it's not like a Pac-Man piece of bread with the hot dog inserted and put sideways. If it was like that, it would be a taco. Yo, chicken is better. Come on, bro.
As long as it's not.
I just like
bread.
chicken a lot.
Your definition, yes it is.
Circular reasoning much? It doesn't
Bro, this guy's so dumb. Of course it is.
help us at all. Ruth is essentially saying a hot dog is a sandwich if you define
Yes.
a sandwich in a way that would describe a hot dog.
Oh my god. But you would define sandwich. I'm losing brain cells. If you look at... Okay, Jesus Christ, this guy's triggering me. Okay, if you look at a Big Mac, okay? Big Mac, McDonald's, you look at a Big Mac. Would you say that's not a sandwich? Okay? Big Mac sandwich. They even call it a Big Mac sandwich, okay? What is in this sandwich? Jesus Christ, that's a Big Mac. It's literally bread with meat in between it, right? Like, it's just the definition. Is air molecules between bread a sandwich? Listen again. I want you to listen really closely, doctor.
Actually saying a hot dog is a sandwich if you
Listen.
reasoning much.
2
Listen.
pieces of bread with almost any type of filling in between, as long as it's
Okay, let's refresh
not
that.
more bread.
Let's rewind that.
Almost any type of filling in
I'll put it
between,
louder.
as long as it's not more bread.
Here, I'll put it again, doctor. I'll put it again for you to hear.
With almost any type of filling in between, as long as it's not more bread.
With almost any type of filling in between, as long as it's not bread. Is air a filling? Is air a filling, doctor? Air is not a filling. Air is air. Water is water. Earth is earth. Fire is fire. Fire Nation sucks. Oh my god. Jut that much, but then again, PP has bad taste. That's true too. You keep linking stuff. What is this? Oh, this is what you linked before. I'll get there. I still have Ars Blaster's Ars. I feel like I've watched something similar to this recently. Ars Blaster's video, but you said this would relate to this.
This is a sandwich.
Oh, it's only 55 seconds? Okay.
So is this. Here's another sandwich. All sandwiches
Yes.
have starch on top and bottom.
Yes, exactly. Those were all sandwiches. Oreo is a sandwich. Jesus, bro. Hamburgers have circle buns. What? Bro, it's still pieces of bread. They don't need to be square-sized. No one said they have to be square-sized. If you had... What? I know what sourdough bread is. Oh, it's so good. Why are you showing me this? Oh, you're saying a sourdough bread a sandwich? But it has bread inside. You guys have to listen to Stephen Colbert. He's literally a connoisseur of sandwiches.
It's a cube rule. It's a sandwich. So
Sourdough is mad good, yeah.
Here's another sandwich. All sandwiches have starch on top and bottom. It's a cube rule of food. If food only has...
Okay. I don't agree with this, okay? It's not a cube rule, okay? Because like you say, sourdough is... or a hamburger, they're circular, you know? Like your logic is circular. Sourdough is bussin'. The holes of Ari is a filling. How are holes of air are not fillings? Oh my god. You guys, like, stay in school, okay? Because if you do, you'll turn out like me. A very successful streamer. Filling. A quantity of material that fills or is used to fill something. What is air filling? Air cannot fill air. What, air is filling space? I guess air is filling. But that's not the definition we're using, okay? I'm going to zoom in for you guys, all right? You guys in the back that don't wear your glasses. Of food, leaving one with a pleasantly satiated feeling. Food! Is air food? Oh my god. Is air food? No. Air is not food. You can't eat air. Okay, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. We're just going to close this tab and go back to the video. This bozo thinks sourdough is a sandwich. No, I said it's not because it has bread inside. But if you take the bread out and you put something in it... Keep watching. It's going to explain. Okay. A bunless burger is not a sandwich. I agree. A bunless burger is not a sandwich. It's a burger. Air does fill a space, okay?
That starch on the bottom, that's toast. Obviously, this is toast, but so is this and this.
You know what else is toast? You know what else is toast? Disguised. Okay. Let's go back to the video. I don't know which video we were on. My mind is...
Find out what's...
Where were we? Did I X the wrong... Did I... I'm such an idiot.
This is a sandwich. So is this starch on the bottom, that's toast. Obviously, this is toast, but so is this and this. Apple crisp?
Wait, what?
Is toast. Starch on the bottom, that's toast. Obviously, have starch on top and bottom. It's a cube rule of food. If food only has starch on the bottom, that's toast.
If food only has starch on the bottom, that's toast? No. This is toast. I go to disguise toast again. This is toast. You look up toast on Google Images, you see toast.
Obviously, this is toast, but so is this and this.
Bro, sushi is not toast. What is this? I don't agree with this guy. Air is needed to generate energy through consumption. Therefore, you cannot successfully eat without air. Therefore, air is food. I'm sorry, Prince. I get distracted very easily. Burgers are not sandwiches. Burgers are burgers. Burger. Okay? Well, I mean, if it has the buns, it's a sandwich, right? But burger without buns is not a sandwich. It's just a burger. Well, if you use the burgers as buns, then that becomes... Actually, this is a sandwich, right? I don't think you need bread for a sandwich. Damn, I don't know what I know anymore. God damn it. Maybe burgers are sandwiches.
That's just toast with the jam side down. Let's review. This is toast and this is a sandwich. A hot dog's a sandwich, right? Wrong. It's a taco because it has starch on 3 sides. So this is a taco and that's a taco. 4 sides of starch makes food.
This is so stupid.
Sushi. That's hard to say. And if there's starch on 5 sides, that's a quiche. Here's a quiche, there's a quiche, everywhere a quiche. Finally, we come to the calzone. Obviously, this is a calzone, but so are these. Don't forget the sweet calzone, creamy calzone, carnival calzone, and the Colonel Sanders calzone. That's
Bro, what? Can we just read definitions? Maybe I'm going... A type of pizza that is folded in half before cooking to contain a filling. You can't change the definition of something just because you want to change it. Jesus. No interrupting. I can't, bro. It's hard not to interrupt. It doesn't need bread to be a sandwich, I think. But hot dogs are sandwiches. You just need two... Okay, this is what I think a sandwich is, okay? None of these people know what they're talking about, okay? A sandwich, you have two things of the same thing and something else in between. That's it, you have a sandwich. That's it, okay? You have paper, you have paper, you have paper, okay? You have paper and paper, okay? Then you have a phone. You put the phone in the middle, it's a sandwich. It's a paper sandwich. This is not hard. That's it. That makes the most sense. Everything else doesn't make sense. You're changing definitions for things. It doesn't make sense. Okay? He's not 100% serious? Oh.
That's right.
I don't know.
Fried chicken is a calzone. There are exceptions, like the salads. These are salads. And steak is a salad.
Okay, he's joking.
Then there's the cakes. Lasagna's a beefcake. And so's this guy. Total beefcake. Visualize your sandwiches and anything else with Lucid Chart.
What's Lucid Chart? Damn, that was a good advert. Oh, that's the guy. That was a good advertisement. I'm gonna write a note right now. Lucid Chart. I wrote it. Oh my god. This is hurting me. What do you think, Blaster? Eat paper with a phone filling on string. Why would I eat it, though? I wouldn't eat it. Yeah, but it's not food, right? But people eat phone. People eat paper. People eat paper. So what is even food? What is food? Person eats paper. Person eats paper. Woman eats half a roll of toilet paper. Is eating at addicted to eating paper.
Hi, my name is Yesenia. I'm 17 years old. I live in Phoenix, Arizona.
She's 19 now.
And I'm addicted to eating paper. I started eating paper since I was 7 years old. I grabbed a piece of paper from my classroom and this kid dared me to eat it. And when I ate it, it was really good. And I loved it. I fell in love with it. I couldn't stop eating paper. Most of the time, I just crumble the paper and I eat it. I bite it hard. I sometimes lick it and oh my god. And it is so good. These are the type that are the best.
A sandwich should be edible. Do people eat phones? Yeah, okay. Let's see if I was right. Person eats phone. Man eats phone. That's not
Hey, hold up.
I'm really scared to watch this video. I'm kind of scared. Oh, I skipped a message. Gomen nasai. What do you need to be pizza? You can no sauce on pizza, just meat. You spelled meat wrong. Vegetables, any filling. Therefore, any of those things can be pizza. I think you need sauce on pizza. Do you not need sauce? Why am I pausing an advertisement? Do you not need sauce on pizza? Oh my god. Wait. What is pizza?
Pizza.
Pizza. A dish of Italian origin, dough baked with a topping of tomato sauce and cheese. Typically with added... Bro, you're just wrong. You're just wrong. What the hell? People eat phones, guys. People eat phones. People eat soap. People eat paper, bro. I'm telling you, people eat phone. People eat phones. Okay, maybe people don't eat phones, okay? Let's just say that wasn't a sandwich. My example before was not a sandwich, okay? Maybe I was wrong. But if it's edible, then my example still makes sense, okay? Alright.
On your definition, yes it is.
Ugh, circular reasoning.
Stop going to that other side of YouTube. You don't need sauce on pizza for it to be a sauceless pizza? It's just dumb. That's dumb. Wait, white pizza is white cheese. Yeah, no, wait, that's true. There's no sauce. It's just white cheese. Okay, you need cheese and you need the bread for a pizza, okay? You still need cheese. So a calzone, so that still doesn't make sense. You need cheese. Okay? You need cheese. Just because they eat it doesn't mean it's edible. What does edible mean? Things you could eat, no? Something that is suitable or safe to eat. But how do you define suitable? Is paper safe to eat? Safe to eat. There's no nutritional benefit. It's not particularly dangerous. Boom. Boom. Paper is not dangerous to eat. Therefore, paper is edible. Therefore, if you put cheese in between two pieces of paper, it's a sandwich. That's literally true. Like, what? Psh, there's no way. What do you mean lactose intolerance pizza? Lactose pizza? No, you can't eat. There is no. What? What? Dairy-free pizza? Because lactose. Bro, I don't even know anymore. You don't need cheese. Paper is not... Bro, what is food? Not near me. Oh my god. Would you say lettuce is not food because it has no nutritional benefits or whatever? Or very small because when you... Or does it? I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm saying. But I know that if like you chew lettuce, you lose more calories because you're chewing. So is that even food? What is food? Food. Any nutritious, non-nutritious food. So are roll-ups food? They're not nutritious. Is ice cream food? It's not nutritious. Food. Any nutritious substance that people or animals eat or drink or that plants absorb in order to maintain life and growth. Is ice cream even food then? I agree. Parp is not food, but paper might be. I've eaten vegan pizza. Okay, what is vegan pizza? What is it made out of? What is vegan pizza? What is vegan pizza? Are you saying snacks are not food? Snacks are for snacks. It literally says snack foods. Snacks. Snacks are foods. Are snacks food? It's a small portion of food. Wait, bro, this is so contradictory. Life doesn't make sense. Food. Nutritious substance. Non-nutritious food. Ice cream. Snack is a small portion of food. But then ice cream is a snack. But it's not a food. None of this makes sense. Reacting to some... Yeah. Wait. Ice cream is a snack or fruit roll-ups. But they're food. But they're not food. Different definition of nutritious. Oh yeah, what does nutritious mean? One means containing nutrients. The other means is positively nutritional. Now I feel really dumb. Because it brings nutrition. But not all food brings nutrition. That's what I was trying to say before. Like lettuce. Lettuce is nothing. Look, it's nothing. It's nothing. You lose more. You by chewing lettuce. If you took a raw lettuce and you chewed on it, you would lose calories because of you're chewing it, right? Chewing lettuce. So is lettuce even food? Chewing lettuce, lose calories. You guys might think I'm crazy. No, it's a myth. Wait, he does. This is Quora. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Oh. Oh, wait. I always thought this was true. There are no. Oh. Oh, never mind. Never mind. If food is required to have nutrition, then how could there be non-nutritious food? Yeah. All right, let's go to Blaster's video. I think that'll
finest Taylor.
I think that'll be cool. We're just wait, okay, last thing. What the hell is vegan pizza made out of? Oh, wait. Bro. Veganism is a diet where people do not consume any animal products. Blah, blah, blah. Seeing as one of the main ingredients to pizza is cheese, it can be hard to find a vegan pizza. So is vegan pizza even pizza then? I don't think vegan pizza is pizza. It's not pizza. It's vegan. That's why it's called vegan pizza, because it's not pizza. No? They're most famous for their dairy-free mozzarella cheese. They still have cheese. Vegan pizza still has cheese. Even though it's dairy-free. I don't even know what cheese means now. What does cheese mean? Cheese. Cheese. A food made from the pressed curds of milk. Okay, so you need milk. What is milk made out of? Milk. Secreted by female mammals. Vegan pizza is not pizza because pizza has cheese and vegan pizza has fake cheese. That's not cheese. Okay, doctor, you literally just said it. You can get cheese alternatives. It's not cheese. You're wrong, doctor. I was right. Calzones have to have cheese because it's pizza that's folded. Therefore, the other BS stuff are not calzones because they don't have cheese. Oh my god. Finally, I'm right on something. Okay, let's go back on. Let's go back. I feel better. I don't want to finish this video.
Much. It doesn't help us at all. It's A, a wiener, B, laid lengthwise on a bun, and C, the wiener is filled with something.
Yeah, it's not cheese. I'm just excited. I'm not mad or anything. Is it annoying? I'm sorry. What? Of course you need cheese for pizza. The definition of pizza includes the word cheese. With a topping of tomato sauce and cheese. Now, okay, granted you were right. Not all pizza has cheese. Like white pizza. Because it's racist. It doesn't have cheese. Fine, that makes sense. But, I mean, tomato sauce. It doesn't have tomato sauce. But it has cheese. There are no cheeseless pizzas. Because then it's not pizza. You're kind of right. This definition uses... That's actually kind of true. It uses tomato sauce. So how could I even trust it? Well, according to this definition, white pizza is not even pizza. Right? But I would consider it pizza. See, people ask this on Google. Should have just watched Skullgirl's video. Even with fights included, you would have been done. Yeah, but I feel like I wouldn't have much to say about that video. Wait, why'd I click on this twice? I feel like it's more interesting to engage in topics like this, no? White pizza or a white pie is an Italian-style pizza which does not use tomato sauce. Then how is it pizza? Then why is it considered pizza? Then what? Well, what is pizza? Oh, I'm so confused. It seems like pizza and white pizza are both subsections of something. What are they subsections of? It depends on different people's views on what is and what isn't something. I guess, but like, my head hurts. My head hurts. Oh yeah, we're done with that. This was the next video.
Santa Claus brought to one lucky YouTuber this holiday season.
I hate listening to this guy. He talks like this all the time. I don't hate him. I don't think he's a bad guy, but he sounds very not very interesting as a person. Maybe he's an interesting person. I mean, he has a lot of views. He has 9.5 million subscribers.
A lump of coal and 150 takedown notices.
Oh, he had some tone in his voice there.
Notices on their YouTube channel.
I've actually watched this, and I watched the. I know. I don't want to see his reaction. I've actually seen the... Oh, he didn't put the guy in the description. What an a-hole. Oh, here he is. Totally not Mark. For anyone who doesn't know... Wait, he took down the videos? He took down the videos.
This is going to be my last...
I haven't seen this video. This guy had 150 videos striked or copyrighted by Toei Animations, which are the people that make the animation studio that makes like One Piece and other anime. And he was trying to fight it, and basically copyright law in Japan, I don't know, I'm just summarizing the video, but copyright law in Japan is like not up to date compared to here, so they just copyright everything. And yeah, he was trying to get it fixed. It depends on... Enthusiastic is the word you're looking for. Well, I guess so, yeah. That was the word I was looking for. Grilled cheese is not a grilled cheese is a sandwich. You got 2 pieces of bread with cheese in between. Sorry. I read that before. I forgot to address it. Checkmate words are only defined by the societally agreed classification. That's true. Therefore, anything that we accept to fall under a category adjusts the definition to fit the attributes that are held by the items within the category. That's true, which is why the definition should be different. Therefore, pizza doesn't need any of those specific things. Well, we still have to societally have an agreed classification for what is pizza. There's a reason why people don't go over to like a frickin' like cucumber and say, that's a pizza, right? Because no one would understand what that means. Because people know that pizza is defined a certain way. That's why I don't really understand. I think pizza, I guess it's like the shape. No, not the shape, but the 2D-ness of what it is. You don't see pizza that's 3D or like folded or anything, right? It's just 2D. It's just blah. You have you have bread. You have a crust. Actually, you might not even need a crust. You just like have bread that's cooked, and you have cheese and maybe tomato sauce. I think that's what makes a pizza. That's still wrong, doctor. What's what? It's a me, Mario. You won 5. That's for the stream avatars. So you could change like your avatar. You could spend the currency for stuff like for that. We do not need to have a societal decision on what is and isn't pizza. It's not a societal decision. It's just what's societally accepted, without being formally accepted. Some base it on structure, other based on what's being used. I wish the Philippine eagle gets you. I don't even know what that means. You live in New York. People fold a pizza to eat. I do that. But a pizza isn't naturally, but it's not folded. You fold it yourself when you're eating it. But that's a good point. It is being folded. Hey, Wolf, what's up? Yo, let's go. There is a balloon pizza. Okay, I'm done with this. Let's watch his latest video for now.
I say that not because I've heard anything from them or YouTube, because
Why is it all...
It's not because I haven't felt an enormous amount of support from so many people, because I have. It's actually for an entirely different reason I never thought would be a factor, and that's me. Whenever I would work on a video in the past, no matter how long it was or how tired I got while working on it, I never felt comfortable settling for anything less than what I thought was the very best I could do. And
That's BS, because this video is all in, like has no video.
Over the years, I've grown accustomed to pushing myself to work harder, longer, and all that comes with that mindset, regardless of how I felt physically.
Oh,
which
you
is a
got
big
it?
reason as to why those videos I lost meant so much to
So
me.
tiny.
But today, I think I've reached my limit. To be clear, I would never consider myself someone that suffered from any form of anxiety. I'm very fortunate in that regard, but over the last week, I've not been able to sleep, and due to the anxiety associated with this occasion and the scope of it, I've also had trouble eating. This is an entirely new experience for me, and one that has been fueled by what's been going on both publicly and privately in my personal life. To say that a lot of things went wrong this week would be an understatement, and how this has impacted me and made me feel has been something I never expected. The difference in how I was feeling in the first video and the second video was enormous, and today it's even worse. In those videos, I tried to be as honest.
Teching 101. I used to watch this guy. How does he not have a check mark? Oh, he does.
Okay, this is.
I used to watch this guy when I read One Piece. A lot of people related to reaction stuff have been commenting. Damn, Patters. I also looked at him for advice for my videos. I didn't talk to him, but it's interesting to see like one side of YouTube and know a lot of it, you know, but not know a lot of the other side or whatever.
Honest and transparent about how I was feeling and the details that were unfolding around me. I chose to make this public because I wanted not to lose 3 years worth of work for what I considered to be unfair reasons. But I don't think that this is something that can change, at least not now. I hope it does in the future, but right now I need this to be over. I no longer stand by a boycott of toy animation.
Wait, what? So for anyone who doesn't know, he actually said, oh, he sent a message in Japanese, or he had someone send a message in Japanese to express his feelings to Toei Animation and to Oda, who's the like author of One Piece, to say like, we're gonna have millions of people boycott your stuff if you don't like fix this issue, which is a pretty crazy thing to say. But now he's saying he's not doing that. I wonder why. Did he get death threats? Like, it's kind of weird. Naruto. You're Sasuke now. Nice. Someone become Naruto. The issue was basically this. I would put his original video, but it got he took it down. It looks like. I don't want to put like other people's videos talking about. I could do that, but I'll just summarize it because I'm awesome. This guy basically had 150 videos of his taken down because he had like content inside of those videos with clips from like One Piece and stuff. And Toei Animation, the animation studio that like animates One Piece and other anime, basically striked 150 of his videos. So he didn't get banned off of YouTube or whatever, but he couldn't make money off of them anymore. And I don't know if they were taken down. I don't remember that. But he had to... YouTube has a system that anytime you're... And this happens to me too, actually. And I'm tiny. It doesn't matter. I don't make money on YouTube right now. But when a video gets copyright striked, or copyright claimed, rather, because strike is different. But if it gets copyright claimed, anyone could copyright claim a video. It's dumb. So I could go to like this guy's video right now and copyright claim it. I could say, oh, you have some of my stuff in it. And basically YouTube favors with the people who copyright claim. And it's much harder as a creator to like counter that. And it takes a long time. So for him to like counter all 150 claims would take like years because of how long it takes to the company responds, and then you respond. You have to prove that they're not copywriting your content and stuff like that. So he had that. He still has the issue apparently, but his subs went up like crazy since this happened, and he got a lot of money, I think, through Patreon or something. Obviously, it still sucks, especially when you're a bigger YouTuber and you have so many videos. Jesus, which video was it? Because that's 150 videos is like probably days of your life to create, right? And it makes, when you're a bigger YouTuber, every video makes some money or like gets views every day for you. So, but yeah, he gained like an insane amount. Like if you look at his weekly subs, he was getting 1 to 2,000 subs a week, whatever, right? He got 60,000 subs in pretty much 1 week. Because PewDiePie made a video on it, which I watched. Moist Critical made a video on it, which I think I watched the whole thing. Or at least a bit of it. And like big creators were making videos on it. And PewDiePie said also his videos have problems like that. Basically, YouTube has to make a better copyright system to protect creators more. Otherwise, creators lose a lot of money on videos because videos perform best in 24 hours. And a lot of time, the copyright claims are not even true. So if you look up how many false copyright claims are on YouTube, it's a lot. YouTube false copyright claim report reveals 4.4 million incorrect claims a year. That might sound like a lot, and it is, but let's keep reading, right? Those incorrect claims represent less than 1% of the more than 729 million total copyright claims issued. Okay, it doesn't sound that crazy anymore, right? Those 2.0 were later reinstated. Those incorrect claims represent less than 1% of the... Wait, that actually is not crazy at all. That means 99% of people who are pushing out copyright claims are in the right. So that's the good thing, right? The system actually kind of works. The thing where it screws up is here. I read this article before too. 99% of those claims were originated from Content ID, YouTube's automated copyright enforcement tool. When users disputed these claims, I'm reading this correctly, right? When users disputed these claims, the case was resolved in favor of the uploader around 60% of the time. So a majority of the time, the uploader was in the right and was getting copyright claims like wrongly. So that's bad, right? That has to be resolved. Maybe there should be more punishments if you copyright claim and you're wrong. You know, that's what I think should happen. They don't need to make a better system, actually. They just need to communicate more. I don't know. It's very hard. What's up, Aqua? It's very hard also because YouTube is insanely big, right? So they would need people to... They would need enough people to actually go over all these claims. I mean, just look at this. In 6 months, there were 729 million claims. So you do need an automated system in some way, right? How do you communicate that more? I don't know exactly what that means. That's insane. For any person or company can take down your video with just a few clicks.
Incoming call from Thailand. Hello?
Hello?
Elliot? I haven't received any nudes in about 5 minutes. I'm going to need you to step up that production.
Alright, I'll send you some right now. Okay, I send it to you, bro. Yes, this needs to change. There are creators who gave up on making revenue directly from YouTube. Yes, very, 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 very true. Yeah, the biggest problem with copyright claims are essentially that if your video gets flagged or claimed, especially in the beginning, it could screw up your...
Why do you have to make me sad, Nathan? I'm trying to explain something, and you make me sad. You make me a sad monkey. You're ruining my life. Why? Why do you do this?
You can do it!
I'll try my best, Prince.
Nope, not letting you out of the basement. Did you get the monkey face? You didn't. Thanks. You're just redeeming everything. I got muscles. Blaster, you said I don't do push-ups. Right form? Look at these muscles. Yeah. This is from doing push-ups, by the way. Oh.
Hello there.
What's up, Nico? Yeah, but like I was saying before, thanks for extreme stretch. I'm doing good, Nico. The biggest problem seems, how are you doing? The biggest problem seems to be you get claimed on, like if you get claimed in the first 24 hours, you pretty much lose all your revenue because that's where most of the revenue comes for most, for YouTubers essentially. At least generally, obviously there are exceptions. I want to show you guys, obviously I'm not a big YouTuber or anything, but I'm going to show you guys my stream archive channel, right? Where all I put all the streams. Wait, let me change the browser real quick. I'm not professional enough. Oh my god. There we go. Okay. So these are my videos, right? From the streams. I take them out after stream ends and I put them on this website, on YouTube, on this channel as an archive of all the streams, right? Obviously, this is just to archive them. Now, look how many of them have copyright claims, okay? If I was making money off these videos, I would make no money. And the reason they have copyright claims, literally, almost all of them, because of the first 5 minutes of the stream, where I use copyright-free footage. Audio. I use copyright-free audio. This audio is from Envato Elements, which I have. It's literally licensed. It's not just like the BS copyright-free music on YouTube. It's literally licensed music that I use for the first 5 minutes. And if I would want to have it monetized, I would have to go through every video and say, this is wrong. This is a wrong claim. What I think is, if you show the license once, and there could be a way to show that it expires or it doesn't expire, or whatever, then you shouldn't need to show it again. I think that would help a lot. But anyway, I'm not letting you out of the basement, Nathan. I think more content creators win. It's just stressful going through the process to address claims. Some claims can even lead to court. Yes. I agree 100%. Most people are fine. But yeah, no, I agree. I mean, statistically speaking, just looking from this article, they are. But like I said, they need to communicate a bit more than they do now because they don't communicate in the slightest unless a lot of people complain. I think that's BS. I think YouTube communicates one of the most, and people just don't know it. I'll give you this example. I watch every video that this channel puts out. And I forgot what the name of the channel is. Wait, what's the name of the channel? Shite! I don't remember the name of the channel. It's like YouTube Weekly or something. I forgot what it's called. YouTube has a lot of resources. People just don't know about a lot of them. Ah, damn it. Here, let me go on my other browser. I'll find it right now. I'll go on my main account. Here I am. YouTube communicates quite a bit. Here I am. I got so many notifications. I feel popular. I have to find this video. Gaming careers. Phones. Ah, here I found it. Okay. What's up, Cortez? Hey, what's up? Okay. Jesus, I need to get rid of one of these things. If you go to Creator Insider, this is literally for creators on YouTube. Okay?
So who is Creator?
They upload every week, even more than every week, information on how they improve YouTube. And they actually make improvements pretty much all the time. Like, all the time. I just don't think many people know about them. Look how little views it has. 4,000 views, for people from actual YouTube, they're coming out with 2 videos a week, Tuesday and Thursday, updating creators about different things. And I would bet you that majority of YouTubers don't even know this exists. So I think YouTube has resources, and they do communicate pretty well. They just need to fix the copyright thing, which, like what I mentioned, would be one decent fix, I think. I'm sure they do, but I mean, about when it's a specific issue like this, they seem to, like, they just ignore it. I'm not a big company, so I don't know, but my assumption would be, like, they probably get a bunch of issues every day that they're trying to fix, and unless it's, like, fueled by more so, like, media hype, then they're not going to look at it as seriously. Which makes sense, sucks, and is how it is, I think. That's why when PewDiePie makes a video, everyone makes a video, then it's more concentration on them, and they're forced to do something. And the YouTube CEO actually talks to people. I was listening to Devin Nash video, which is a Twitch guy, where he talks about Twitch a lot, and he was saying how no one knows who the Twitch CEO even is, and he's terrible at, like, when there's a problem on Twitch, you just have to deal with it. Like, there's so many problems with Twitch. But YouTube at least tries to address it, and they're much bigger, but yeah. Do you know if you press OK button in your keyboard, it's pause and play? K button? I did not know that. Oh, that's cool. I just use spacebar, but that's cool. That's actually the same in editing software. K is usually to pause. I don't know why YouTube got rid of the option to send DMs. Can you not send? Oh, I didn't even realize that, to be honest. I never used that function, but yeah. I think that them getting rid of the dislike button is dumb. But then I thought, okay, it would just be more annoying and people would adjust, right? You just look at comments and then you know. But then someone brought a good point up, which is if you have comments that are favorited by the creator, you would have to scroll like a lot for bad videos to find actual comments, right? If you had 5,000 people comment and 100 people enjoyed the video and commented nice things, and the creator hearted every comment, because hearted comments, I think, go to the top. I'm not sure. Well, that's what this person was saying. Then it would just be like, that's all you see. So it looks like a good video and you waste your time, right? Too many complaints like this probably, which is why they're suffering a bit for it. Yeah. Press L. Ooh, L goes... Wait, does J goes backwards? What? I didn't know you could... That's literally like Adobe Premiere. Well, L would like fast forward. What? I did not know that. Thank you, guys. Creators can delete negative comments. That's a good point too. Yeah, that's a good point too. I don't see that as an improvement. Me neither. I don't think YouTube is regressing, but I think that was a bad decision. I believe with the new updates for 2022, YouTube is allowed to include ads to all videos. Dispute if you're monetizing or not. Well, YouTube actually recently, and creators know this more than consumers, I think, but YouTube pushed out ads to people who aren't even monetized now. So you could get ads on my videos, but I'm not going to make any money on it. So a lot of people got mad at that. Even older videos are being moved to this policy. That's the OLED, despite if you're... Oh, yeah, that's what you just mentioned, Aqua. I like misread it for some reason. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people got mad about that. Not only that, but you have videos that are shorter than 10 or 8 minutes getting ads now too, which wasn't a thing in the past. Guessing you don't know the... Wait, really? They go frame by frame? No way they go frame by frame. Are you serious?
Privately.
Well, this video is like the worst video to test this out on. Bro, are you kidding me? You ever see those, like, when like text flashes, when YouTubers put text flashing? I always like try to pinpoint it exactly. You could just do this. Jesus Christ. Thank you, doctor. Yes, mama. YouTube is definitely regressing. Even with it improving, it's definitely regressing? No, I didn't know that. I'm such a boomer. Wait, I don't think YouTube is regressing at all. I think a lot of people don't like change, and with YouTube Shorts and stuff, and the dislike button, I think, is just, I think, objectively bad. I think most people agree on that. That being said, I don't think YouTube is If YouTube was regressing, then they wouldn't have like an insane user base that keeps growing. Well, that's not necessarily true, but like I think they're still growing, and like with more access to the internet, as the world gets more access to the internet. This website does not have accurate stats. I've used it before. It's not accurate. But with the world getting more access to the internet, YouTube is growing. They're just using Statista also. I don't know where to find this information, but revenue and usage statistics. Business of apps. I don't know this website, but my assumption is that they grow. This is revenue. This is not user base. So I would be more interested in seeing consumption of YouTube, you know? But yeah. Oh, they show YouTube users. Yeah, like it's like growing insanely. It's still huge. You have 30 million people are premium subscribers. Jesus Christ. They almost doubled the amount of premium subscribers. They tripled it from like 2018, and it's not even 2021 numbers. With COVID, probably it went up too. Like YouTube is not I don't know if that's showing that it's not regressing, but improving. Yeah, I don't know. I hope we get a better platform sometime soon, just to have more options. Remember when YouTube had the list of the most viewed videos? Good time. Like I said, as it's improving and growing, it's still regressing. But yeah, maybe. I think a lot of videos, or a lot of I think the internet is becoming more regulated as time goes by, and I don't know. I think society is headed in a weird direction culturally, especially in like the States, in the US. I think that's not a good thing in many ways. And I think getting rid of the dislike button is one aspect of that being shown, being exposed. But yeah. My video gets ads of Foodpanda, Alibaba, Squarespace, and Grammarly. Nice.
Feels weird.
Oh my god, bro. I don't want to argue again for this stuff, Nathan. Can we watch this next time? Can you send this on Discord so we watch this next time? I don't want to watch this right now. The only reason why YouTube is growing is because there are no other options for self-broadcast. Be careful there. It's not for self-broadcasting that they're growing. There's no other places for as wide, like there's no other places for diverse content consumption, I think, right? It's very easy to consume media on YouTube. I think YouTube is the most addicting thing to me. I don't go on Instagram, Twitter, nothing except YouTube. Because YouTube, it's just like they show you what you want to see, you know? The thing is, it's like another website would have the more successful YouTube would just be better at pushing things you want to see. That's what I think. That would be my assumption. I don't even think YouTube is bad, like in what it does and what it's trying to accomplish. It's like doing what it's trying to accomplish rather. Twitch too is specific to gaming. I don't even think that's true, because Twitch, just chatting, we're not gaming right now, right? As a percentage, I don't know how to find this information, but I think in recent years, just chatting has here. Just chatting dominates Twitch content as viewership doubles in 2021. Like, I don't think it's just gaming, but I think the live aspect is very, very different. You know, you don't know what you're gonna get with live content. YouTube is much more formal. If you're looking for certain information, it's easier to see it. Remember when YouTube had the star rating system? Yes, I do remember that. Dailymotion's a nightmare. True. Facebook, Instagram is limited to friend groups when first starting. YouTube really is the only option. Facebook, Instagram, I don't think can do this. I don't see. I think many people my age, and this is just an assumption, I have no idea. Maybe we could look it up, but I think many people my age or in their 20s or younger don't really use Facebook for anything. But I could be wrong with that. And Instagram is very, like you said, like friends and groups and stuff. And Facebook is too, but think of it like this. If you hear of a popular food but never tried it, but constantly hear about it, eventually you might want to try it. But if you hear of another food that's not nearly as popular, then it isn't going to grow. One thing that's popular is obviously going to grow and improve, but only because nobody's aware of a better option. I kind of agree with you. I kind of agree with you because I think I do agree with you, but I think there's a point where things change. So you might see this. I wouldn't be surprised if we see this with Facebook, but there have been many look at MySpace. Look at why do big companies grow and then die out of nowhere? Because at a certain point, a lot of these companies don't innovate for the future, right? If YouTube at a certain point doesn't improve for what people want, so let's say the new craze is like 10-second videos or whatever, and YouTube doesn't like adjust to that, then YouTube could die. That being said, I do definitely think, yeah, because everyone knows what YouTube is, you're just gonna go on YouTube to watch videos. But what is the other option? Like Aqua says, like, what is the other option? I don't know what other option there is that's as good as YouTube. And that's a lot of it is because YouTube had so much time to make their product better. I mean, it's not like YouTube was amazing when it first started out, right? That's why not many people were using it. But yeah, YouTube is the most popular and hogging the spotlight, with Twitch being maybe behind it. Okay, Twitch and YouTube are completely. We do know we argue. I lose brain cells. There are probably other options. Just YouTube is the most popular. Twitch is very, very different and like 50 times smaller than YouTube in terms of user base. Twitch is tiny. They're also very different. Like, if you think of YouTube, what do you think of? You think of watching videos. If you think of Twitch, what do you think of? Live streaming, because that's all it is. That's all it has, live streaming. So, like, you look at Facebook. Facebook is trying to get into live streaming. Instagram, there's a bunch of other websites with live streaming, but Twitch is the place for live streaming. It was pretty much the first place for live streaming. JTV or whatever. Justin TV was the first, but then it became Twitch, right? So in terms of, like, streaming content live, Twitch is the most popular, but I think YouTube is ahead of it right now in terms of YouTube streaming. And you see, like, Ludwig recently got picked up by YouTube. A lot of people are going over to YouTube because Amazon doesn't give Twitch much money. I don't know if Amazon even gives Twitch money, but Twitch loses money because of Prime.
Hello there.
Because Amazon Prime makes them lose money. But anyway. YouTube is addicting, so that's why it's annoying when they get greedy and use too many ads and become passive with copyright strikes. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. But the thing is, like, that's a society we live in. It's very capitalistic, right? They put more ads because people still watch even with more ads, or people get ad blockers, or people subscribe to their YouTube. They get YouTube Premium, right? Which has 30 million members right now. So, yeah, I agree. But what's more interesting is, like, what's the solution there? My mom's channel gets ads of Genshin Impact. That's cool. Instagram is for friends. Me on Instagram just for the memes. With not that many. Yeah, that's true. But Instagram basically is very quick content consumption, right? YouTube, a lot of people got mad when YouTube added YouTube Shorts, but that was their way of competing with TikTok and Instagram stories or shorts or whatever, and like with all these things, because that YouTube is trying to keep up with like everyone moving forward in that direction, because everyone has ADHD now and watches 10-second things, you know. That being said, I mean, a lot of people still watch long-form content and podcasts and stuff, but whatever. I'm using Google Chrome. I just made the background blue because I like it. Hey, what's up, Angel? Sorry for responding. Oh, you're just here for the trick. Fair enough. Sorry if I'm late for messages. I'm just trying to get every message there. Before TikTok, there was an app called Musical.ly. True. And Vine. As soon as TikTok started becoming more popular, the other app died out. Yep. For sure. Vine was insanely popular, and then it morphed into Musical.ly, I think, right? And then TikTok came out. I don't remember the order, but I think I forgot the reason Vine died, actually. Think of it based on streaming only then and not posting vids. A lot of people are deciding to want to stream on Twitch. Yes, that is very true, but the tide is shifting because of what YouTube offers and what YouTube is very quick to adjust. So YouTube Shorts, like that, they're already on the market with very similar products as TikTok and stuff like that. YouTube streaming has been getting a lot of benefits. One of the reasons I got off of YouTube streaming was because there were a lot of things that were wrong. It's just like if you think of Apple and Mac, and how Apple computers had a lot of programmers would make applications for Microsoft and not Apple computers. Goodbye, Angel. You'll be here tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm not here, but I'll see you Monday. I guess it's tomorrow already. Oh no, it's not. What was I saying? Yeah. So it's changing now, especially as YouTube grabs more popular streamers on Twitch. Like a lot of Ludwig's audience actually moved over to YouTube. I think one of the worst things about YouTube as a consumer, because YouTube is a lot better to watch streams in some ways, and in some ways they're worse. One thing that I think is one of the worst things is that you can't, this is personally, and I think this affects other people, but if you want to watch a YouTube stream and you want to do something else on your phone, you can't, unless you have YouTube Premium or an Android and you get a third-party app, right? Because you can't flick YouTube app outside. You could do that with Twitch. I watch Twitch streams in the background while playing chess. I can't do that with YouTube. I think that's something they have to fix. If you're a new content creator, then when you broadcast your content, only your friend group will see it. YouTube reaches a broader audience, so that's the better... Yes. YouTube is better to start on for sure, but what I was trying to say with Apple and Microsoft is that in the beginning, there was a lot of support for Microsoft, but not much for Apple, because Microsoft was what everyone used. It's the same thing with Twitch and YouTube. A lot of things from the creator side have been pushed to YouTube recently as well. So you could get a lot of things that you get on Twitch on YouTube, like all these effects you see and the Streamlabs stuff. Like some of this stuff I can only do on Twitch. But yeah. When all my Rick rolls get copyright striked. Yeah. Even Reddit is trying to compete with TikTok shorts now. Bro, I'm telling you, the short thing is everything. What is the time in New York? 11:22 p.m. Vine is a very good example as well. Yep. It's very easy to it's very hard to remember the past, but it's easy to talk about things that already happened in the recent past. Like it's easy to say I don't know, it's easy to say, "Oh, I want to invest in Apple." Oh, if I would have invested in Apple 20 years ago, I would have been rich. Yeah, but you also if you invest in something today, you could be rich in the future. You just don't know what that thing is. That's the whole thing. Hey, what's up, Chris? Sorry, I saw that late. Ping with a mustache. Nice. I still wanted to live stream in Twitch. Yeah. You've been here for a while already. My bad. Lol. Why Apple doesn't have a gaming console? They have Apple Arcade? Oh, I don't know. I don't know enough about Apple and gaming. I think their mobile market makes a lot of money. I think Apple makes a lot of money on their phone, on the App Store. At least they used to. Apple Store money or revenue. I don't know. It's a public company, so it's probably public. It has to be public information. Oh my God, Statista. 70% of App Store revenue comes from a small fraction of customers playing games. Okay, but but this actually kind of proves my point. Like gaming is a big thing on Apple, on the App Store. I don't know how much of their money that they make is that, but yeah. Oh wow. Oh, this is interesting, but this is kind of off topic. I never heard of Apple Arcade. What is that? Excuse me. Game subscription service. Oh. Yeah, but the mobile game device, so it is through the App Store, yeah? Oh, I think I did hear of that. I've seen that in the App Store. In the App Store. I don't know why I said that twice, but yeah. Do you guys hear the music okay? Is it loud enough that it's not too annoying or whatever? It's on Apple TV too. Oh, nice. But yeah, that's what I think. I think it's funny because there were some alternatives for YouTube there were a couple of alternatives for YouTube, but none of them really took off for various different reasons. One of them was like a hotspot for a lot of conservatives and like very extremist views and stuff because they could say whatever they want. But that didn't really take off because of the community that it built, I think. I don't know exactly, but that's probably one of the reasons. And then, I mean, yeah. That's about it. It's not too loud. It's like background music. Oh, perfect. Okay. Perfect. That's exactly what I want it to be. So that makes me happy. Okay. I like talking about this stuff. And learning about this stuff. Like Apple Arcade or whatever. Hopefully you guys like it too. It's interesting, but oh, yeah. I think there was so many videos. I do like talking about everything. I guess that's kind of true. Well, watch this. Someone sent this and it's only a minute, so. Oh, wait, no. This conversation is still interesting. Twitch's market is a gaming platform. It's just gamers have many other interests than just games, so just chatting was encouraged to different topics. However, notice how your Google search specifically said just chatting is popular in 2021. I don't know. I think there was an upward trend for just chatting section, to be honest. And if I think of the biggest YouTubers on the platform, you're right in the sense that some of them, yeah, I think you're right. It's still purely or mostly a gaming platform, but the content itself is not necessarily mostly gaming centric. It's mostly like personality centric, right? Like XQC started as a professional Overwatch player, but now he plays games, but he spends time in just chatting also. Miskiff spends almost all his time in just chatting section, and he averages like 30,000 viewers, a stream. So like, it's like a lot of it is personality driven, I think. YouTube stays stealing all their ideas from Pornhub. Yo, yeah, I remember reading Pornhub was the first one that if you browse a video, it'll show you like a bit of the video, like a preview of it, if you just like hover over it with your mouse, which is actually pretty insane. You could have ended that sentence after talking. You like talking about everything? Wait, what? I don't get it. Now that the sandwich argument and that is out of it, we can watch my new video. Oh yeah. Yeah, let's do that. Sorry. Pretty soon there's going to be Pornhub Shorts. I wouldn't be maybe, actually. That'd be interesting. Alright, let's watch this video. After this video, maybe we'll play some Pokemon Showdown. Why are IQ minus there? Winston Main. I'm so confused. One time, he was a Winston man. One time my video also got an Opera browser ad. Yeah, the ads it's more interesting if you go on browser incognito mode, then you could see what it's actually. Because otherwise ads are influenced by your search. So.
This is a snack. If you're afraid of snacks, then it's a nope rope. Like if you go to the bathroom and you see this, nope rope. And if a nope rope has poisonous venom, then it's a danger noodle, like the shake snake and the cobra.
That's actually funny.
You'll get the hurt juice. But if you love the snacks, then it's a boop noodle. Look at that cute snoot. Deserves a boop. Snacks also have peepers, noodle necks, smelly flickers, and nom-nom seekers. Those are for finding cheese boys. Other names for nope ropes.
It's because of how serious he says all this that it makes it beautiful. Twitch videos are 100% gaming centric? No, that is not true. It doesn't matter if there are different categories if no one is using those categories. Well, what do you mean for your videos? What do you mean Twitch videos? Like Twitch streams? Or if you want to discuss any other topic besides games, then you must default to just chatting. Yeah, but that doesn't matter, right? Because if you have... That could be what the... What's up, Lando? But he had to get banned like the day before I went in. Nice. You get to watch me. If you see... It doesn't... It means that's what the website is trying to push towards people, but it doesn't mean... Look, Twitch has evolved. It used to be just games. If you look even on their directory tab, it shows games, IRL, music, and esports. Games is their first topic, but IRL is their second. You have to see how many people are viewing it at any time, right? If we want to actually look at it, we would have to compare total numbers of people in just chatting, viewers in just chatting, versus all the games combined versus all music combined. If you do all of that, then I think you get a better idea, right? You have almost 300,000 viewers on Just Chatting, 85,000 on League of Legends, which is a lot, right? I don't know if it's primarily gaming that people go on Twitch for. Yeah, I don't know. Like, you just scroll down, majority of people are in these sections, you know? You're not gonna... There might be a lot of game categories, but if you search up something like Pokemon X, which is the game I'm playing right now, right? On stream. You have 9 people viewing it. And there's a lot of categories that are like that, so... Yeah. Sorry, I keep pausing your video. Opera PewDiePie ad, how cool is that? That's really cool. I love PewDiePie. I went to... if you do Pokemon Showdown or Cream Games, can you raise the volume of music? Yes, because I won't be talking as much. Akko kind of has a point, though. Honestly, I think looking at the statistics of everything would be more interesting to see more formally, like how many people are actually going to Just Chatting versus all the games combined versus music combined. I would assume gaming is still the most, but I don't think it's that much more than Just Chatting and music and everything else. But I don't know. The beaches, bathtubs, and this category. True. Oh, 2 years ago? Oh, I didn't even... Oh, because Overwatch League. Right, he doesn't play Overwatch anymore. I'm dumb. That makes sense. Twitch is focused on gaming? Twitch as a company, sure. Did I say Twitch is gaming centric? What I meant is, like, the viewers of Twitch, like, people don't go to... Because we're talking about what do people go on YouTube for? What do people go on Twitch for? I don't think most people that go to Twitch go to see gameplay. That was my point. Okay, IQ minus me. Yeah, they changed the name, Prince. But yeah, let me try to finish this video. I guess I did screw up my explanation, yeah. I don't... We were going all over the place. But, yeah. No, okay, let's just see. Because now I'm curious. And I'm not saying Just Chatting is more. I'm just curious. Viewership by category, Twitch. What? Oh, someone hosted me? Thanks for the host, whoever hosted me. It doesn't pop up if it's a one-person host, I think. It's probably Nathan. Okay. I was trying to say that gaming is just the first thing that comes to mind usually. Yeah, I think initially, yes. I don't know if that's true as much anymore. And that would be proven by the statistics, right? Because if you see more viewers going to Just Chatting, then that kind of proves that people don't go on Twitch for gaming, which means their first thought when they think of Twitch is not gaming. Like, what's your first thought when you think of Twitch? My assumption would be your first thought are the people on Twitch, right? You might think of XQC, and then you might think of gaming, right? Then you might think, okay, Twitch, gaming. But if you think of people like Miskiff, you don't think of gaming because he doesn't game most of the time. Gaming? Okay. Maybe I'm wrong. You go to McDonald's or something, the last thing on your mind is a salad. If 60% of people who went to McDonald's got a salad, then I think the first thing on your mind is a salad. That's the difference. My whole point is that depending on how many people actually watch Just Chatting streamers or go on Just Chatting category, I think that's what defines how people think of it. Everyone who goes on Twitch is open to gaming. They don't have to be gamers, though. If they're not interested in gaming at all or hate it, then they would go to another platform like YouTube or TikTok. I think gaming because I don't really use Twitch. I just think of gaming. Okay. Maybe I was wrong then. I guess I was wrong. Sorry, I'm very stubborn. Gomen nasai. I do think that it is changing, though. Gomen nasai. I will say, though, that... Yeah, I guess you're right then, Aqua. I guess you're right, yeah. People probably go to Twitch for gaming, like you're saying. but then they could get sidetracked into only watching music or only watching just chatting streamers. But it doesn't matter because their initial like impression or their initial like way into getting into Twitch was through gaming, most likely. Like I could see that being a thing. Still, I think it is changing though. Like you look at Ludwig, who gains an insane amount of viewers on his subathon, and like a lot of people were there because he was doing a subathon, and I don't know. I think, yeah. Ooh, what browser are you using for gamers? I think of a give or cause to give a short, sudden jerking or convulsive moment. Don't we all, doctor? Don't we all? But I am very, very curious. See, even the category says games. Just Chatting is 10%. Valorant is 7%. All other games combined. You see, I don't know if they include music in this category and other stuff. But yeah, it seems to be most, like, majority gaming. Like, by far. So I was very wrong. And the percentage of people in the Just Chatting category hasn't even gone up, like, that much. Oh, it went up a lot since it was introduced. I guess it was introduced. When was it introduced? I don't know. It has went up a lot, but it's not a huge percentage. So it used to be 4%. It like more than tripled, but it's still a very tiny percentage. So yeah, you're definitely right. You guys are right. It's cool because it has a homepage that lists when games are coming out and what is the browser called. They could get sidetracked, but they're most likely there initially because of gaming. Yep. And a sidebar with this Twitch and Discord. I think it's because of my exposure to Just Chatting streamers that I just didn't even like see reality. But yeah. Wait, Opera. Ew. GX though, is that a new form of Opera? I think Twitch is changing to include a broader audience because of the pandemic. But how much does Twitch push that out? Like, how could Twitch push that out? Because there's no exposure from Twitch itself, right? It would have to be streamers that pull in more people. Or I guess if Twitch incentivizes ways to... Or, like, incentivizes things for Just Chatting streamers. But I don't know that it does. But, yeah, I mean, if you look at what was it, December 2020, that pandemic hit? Or 2019, right? COVID-19. So December... I mean, it was trending up. Like I said before, it was trending upward. I don't, but yeah, I think because like, I think like 90 or 80%, there's an insane percentage of people that watch, or there's a insane percentage of viewership that goes to like 3 or 4 or the top 10 streamers or whatever. It's kind of like real life in terms of billionaires and money. So like, if one huge streamer goes into Just Chatting and becomes a Just Chatting streamer, or if I became famous tomorrow, right, and I only did Just Chatting, these statistics would change like crazy too. So I don't even know if this is like even, you know, because like Miskiff wasn't around a few years ago, and like I keep going back to him because I watch him on YouTube actually, and sometimes on Twitch, but because his viewership is an insane percentage of the entire viewership on Twitch at any given time, I'm pretty sure. And any of like XQC, any of the big streamers are. But yeah. It's still mostly gaming though, yeah. It also has a RAM and CPU limiter. Wait, really? A browser? I'll look into it. I mean, I don't really game any crazy games on computer, or on browser, but yeah. Wait, it has a Twitch sidebar with Twitch and Discord and a RAM and CPU limiter. Yeah, I'll definitely look into it. That's because of the pandemic. The only way we'll know if it's maybe permanently more varied is if hopefully the pandemic ends or at least improves. If I became famous tomorrow. Yo, you're gonna get famous in 22 minutes. Let's go! Wait, why 22 minutes? It's very specific. I never finished it. Oh my god, I feel so bad.
Tube dudes, hazard spaghetti, spicy noodles, caution ramen.
Ooh, I love spicy noodles.
Whatever you call them, just remember, no step on snack. There are many kinds of snacks, like Big Thick Boy, Slim Boy, also known as the Judgmental Shoelace, Original Snack, Uggo But Still Lovo Snack, and Screaming Worm Boy.
He gives credit to everyone on the top left. That's cool.
And can't forget the lovely Noodle Ball. Look at that little pupper face. Noodles have many activities. Snacks eat snacks, ropes do scopes. When they're tired,
snacks
they
eat snacks.
Sometimes snacks wear a sweater, and if you're lucky, they'll wear a hat. top hat, party hat, this hat, that hat, wizard hat, visualizer snacks, and anything else with Lucid Chart.
Damn, I gotta get Lucid Chart. Oh, tomorrow is in 22 minutes. I'm not that bright. I don't think I would figure that out if you gave me like 20 minutes to figure it out. All right, I know Gotrix Man wanted to play Pokemon Showdown against me. And I know some other of you guys would want to play. So we'll play a bit of Pokemon Showdown and still talk because I talk. Yeah. So if you'd like to play. I just changed the category.
With each and every new season that comes around, there are brand new
Top 10 best anime of all time. Can you send this on well, I'm really curious to see what this is. Can you send this on Discord and we watch it next week? Because usually it's 2 hours. We went a bit ahead. It's 2 hours 15 minutes that pass. But obviously we were talking for majority of it. But yeah, I feel like this could be a good video to make for YouTube also. I just feel bad because I made Gotrix Man wait 5 months and 4 weeks. It doesn't say 6 months. Sheesh, so close. Would you react and rate comedians based on how funny you think the jokes they are to you? Sure, but I don't think it would be that interesting because I don't know. I don't really like stand-up comedians, at least. I don't find that funny. Like stand-up comedy. But yeah, I could do that. That could be a thing. React to comedians. React and rate comedians. That sounds like a cool, fun stuff. Yeah, I remember the volume of music. You can go, man. It's okay. No, Chris. I feel bad. You sure, Chris? You sure we can watch the video? You sure? You sure? Aqua, don't we all? I think everyone, regardless of their political leanings, regardless of anything, I mean, obviously everyone wanted it to end, right? All the time, but I think everyone is just tired already. Aqua's like, wahoo, hype. Hey, well, I should have a hype emote. Do we have a hype emote? We don't, right? Okay. You should say thank you, Aqua. Let me change my category. Wait, what is the category now? Just chatting. I can't spell. Sorry, no Pokemon Showdown. Okay. Like, I'm introverted, but this was ridiculous. Yeah. Is. Depending on where you live, it could be harder to deal with mentally and stuff. And yeah. I just like talking, Chris. You know that. So... yeah. Talking about stuff I'm interested in, and we got into stuff I'm interested in, I guess. Why does it show the thing in the back? I don't want it. Oh, that's why. My whole computer was moved. Probably by me. I'm so ugly. I need a haircut. Okay. You see? That stupid thing in the background. Oh, it's pissing me off that you guys could see it. Should I just get rid of the green screen, guys? I feel so professional and cool with it, though. So New York, where you are now, you know exactly what I mean. Yep. Because I'm not an actual city, so they can... Yeah, New York and Cali, at least in the US, I think, takes the most stringent measures. It's like the most, like, yeah, for sure. I think. I said for sure, and then I think. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, big cities, yeah. The main positive about the pandemic is I just joined Twitch and met the PP crew. Yes, let's go. And actually, I wouldn't be streaming if there was no pandemic, so. None of you guys would have met me. Or maybe you would, but not on Twitch. Probably. Same here. Wait, that means when the pandemic is over, you guys are all gonna leave. And I guess so am I, right? Wrong button. Oh yeah, it was Reddit. Yeah. I remember, Prince. I remember. So why'd you say same here? Well, I guess more time, right? Okay. Everyone's just gonna have to deal with the stupid thing in the background. Unless I'm a genius. I feel like I'm so annoying. Okay, that's actually perfect. Okay. We will all be partying in the streets. You can stream that thing. Yeah, but no one will be watching. Oh, it got hot. Don't worry, guys. I won't take off my shirt. I know you all want to see it, but I'm gonna turn on the AC like a weirdo. Just don't tell anyone. I'm also likely gonna still be here if you still stream. Oh, I'll be streaming for some time as long as we keep growing. If we keep growing, which I'll be here maybe. We'll see. Okay. 10 best anime of all time. You might be thinking, who am I to, judge this video? But I am a connoisseur of anime. I spent 2 years teaching English in Japan. I know anime. But more importantly, I know real anime. I know real Japanese people. So, yeah. Let's get started. Plus, you stream at night. Maybe a little later than I'd like, but you still stream. Actually, my plan in my head at least is that once I start making enough money on Twitch/YouTube, I'm going to be streaming more often and earlier in the day. So, yeah. That'll be a thing. Okay. Let's get started.
Anime filled with
last video of the day after this. After this, it's finito. It's kaput. It's blah blah boo. Okay? Excuse me. This better be good.
With each and every new season that comes around, there are brand new anime filled with surprises left and right. It is almost impossible to watch every new seasonal anime that comes out, but there are always those new anime seasons to your favorite show in particular, and or new shows that come out that you can't wait to watch. For me, it's always been hard to find something new to watch nowadays. I just personally can't get over the fact that the older generation of anime is so much better than the generation we currently have.
The older generation of anime is better than the current? Is that true? I don't know. In some ways, yeah. I don't know how old he's talking about, though. Like, if you think about... A lot of anime back then was made on a weekly basis. They weren't seasonal. So you had, like, anime like Naruto and One Piece. Arguably still... Like... They were weekly. They didn't have breaks to actually up their animation style and stuff. If you're not talking about story, if you're talking about also animation, well, you got to talk about everything, right? So animation-wise, I think anime has improved drastically, obviously because of technology and stuff, but because they also have time to work on the anime. Like Attack on Titan, it's seasonal, right? And like all of the big anime now are seasonal, unlike Naruto, Boruto, Bleach, One Piece, so... Damn, 6.5 months. Wow. I can name an oldish kind of anime that's maybe small but still good. Flame of Recca. Never heard of that, actually. I'll write it down. Seasonal or arc-based? Yeah. Also, the important thing to keep in mind is that, like, a lot of anime have filler, right? So if you have anime that has filler and you're watching it live, like, that makes the anime worse. So, yeah. Let's see if he talks about this stuff. I've never heard of Flame of Recca.
But then again, we do always have at least 1 or 2 new series that come along that always take the cake, in terms of a solid new anime to watch. Now, in this video, I wanted to put together a top 10 anime of all time, or best top 10 anime of all time, of course, in my personal opinion. So go ahead my ass in the comments down below. Oh, who am I kidding? I'm gonna get destroyed.
Yep.
So without further ado,
you can never make everyone happy with your subjective positions on everything. Case in point, look at my IQ. Okay? My IQ is low. And it's because of tier lists. Yeah, thank you. I noticed actually right when you wrote the comment, Prince.
Let's get straight into the top 10 best anime of all time. Coming in at number 10, we have Hunter
x Hunter.
Okay.
Hunter x Hunter is mad good. Hunter x Hunter is really good anime. It kind of, I don't know. I wish it continued, but you don't think Hunter x Hunter is? Oh, and it could go even lower. Actually, I will say I've been here for 7 months. Yeah, I don't know why it says 6 months, 4 weeks. Maybe it's like in a few hours it's gonna be 7 months.
I can already see you guys going down straight to the comments and typing, "Oh my god, how could you put Hunter x Hunter so low?"
Nah, Hunter x Hunter number 10. I think that's reasonable. It wasn't perfect, but it was like, I would say for me personally, I haven't watched every anime in the world, but it was one of the most unique anime I've watched. But yeah.
So blah 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 blah. Okay, just hear me out. Hunter x Hunter to me was something.
焼け続けることに必ず意味がある. Haha, I know Japanese. I'm cool.
And I found really interesting and gave me a lot of Naruto vibes as a kid when I first watched it. Now, don't get me wrong, Hunter x Hunter had some of the most hype and dramatic scenes in all of anime.
I thought this was kind of... Oh yeah, spoiler alert. I thought this was kind of BS. I thought this was so BS. Like... But it was still good. It was still good to watch. It was fun.
And I will take that to the grave. But for some reason, I just can't put this series any higher on my list from my perspective. Maybe later down the line when Togashi decides to bring back Hiatus X Hiatus in the manga, I could see myself putting Hunter x Hunter higher on this list. But for now, we're going to keep it at the number 10 spot. Next.
I haven't read the manga, but oh my god, yes. I want more episodes too. I want more episodes of Hunter x Hunter. Personally, I might have put it higher up, to be honest, but I can see why people put it at number 10. It's a very weird anime. And then if you think about the pedo-ness of it, you know what I'm talking about, then, you know.
Next up on the list, we have Boruto.
What? You put Boruto at number 9? Bro, I love Naruto. I'm so biased for Naruto Shippuden specifically until the war arc. But and I watch Boruto. But putting Boruto at number 9? That's weird to me. That's very weird. And I want to hear why he put it at 9.
Why the fuck you lying?
Oh, okay.
I mean Naruto, god no.
Oh, okay. I was okay. Wait, what? Why does it say number 8 now? He did get me. I was like, what?
Not Boruto. I meant Naruto. Now, Naruto has always been something I kept close to heart as an anime watcher growing up. It's always
I think he's tricking everyone because it says number 8 on top. So, what is he doing here? He skipped from number 10 to number 8.
No, not Boruto. I meant Naruto. Now, Naruto has always been something I kept close to heart as an anime watcher growing up. It's always been something I saw as a gateway anime to someone who was looking into anime but not sure if they would like it or not. Naruto has so many nostalgic moments within the
if I were to make a top 10 list, I don't even know if... Like, if you separate Naruto from Shippuden, I would probably put Shippuden pretty high up, but I don't even think I could put it at number 1 just because of how much BS... And I freaking love Naruto. How much BS was in the war arc. It just was so... Spoiler alert, Kakashi was like insanely strong for no reason. And when he had one Sharingan, like before he got both, like it was so dumb. Probably wasn't mistaken, just double trolled everyone. I know, right? Maybe Barto's number 9. We'll see in the video, I guess. It's still kind of slow for the Chimera Ant arc. Oh.
Series that I can't even count how many they are. And just to mention, I am including both Naruto and Naruto Shippuden as well.
Okay, so he is including both.
Choosing here OG Naruto over Naruto.
Okay, that's nostalgia based. Shippuden is, I think, better than Naruto. I think nostalgia-wise, Naruto's, better. But Shippuden, nah. But then again, Naruto had some I could see Naruto being better than Shippuden. Maybe. I think the Pain arc was just so amazing that it just trumps a lot of what happens in Naruto. But then the third Hokage stuff was amazing. So yeah.
Shippuden. That's final.
Now you're chasing clout.
Moving forward, we have Death Note. Taking my.
Oh my god, no! Death Note is so overrated. Are you kidding me? Death Note is so overrated. Death Note is so overrated. Death Note was so dumb at certain points. I think it was so overrated. Like the way they were tricking each other. I wish I could point to specific times. Otherwise, I just kind of sound dumb. But I remember there being times where I'm like, how could you deduce this out of that? It kind of sounded like what's that guy? There's another detective guy where it's not an anime, but like the famous detective guy. Robert Downey Jr. played him. You guys know what it's called? When I started watching anime again, should I try and get through Naruto and Naruto Shippuden or One Piece first? Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, I think, combined, is still less than half of One Piece. So I would say Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. One Piece I would rather read. I think One Piece is not that good as an anime, as a whole. Oh my god, he's probably going to put One Piece high up. But yeah, One Piece has a lot of just terrible animation because it's so slow-paced. If it was faster-paced, mwah. Look up One Piece. One Piece would be good to look up. Soul Eater? Yeah, Soul Eater is one. I think I watched only a little bit of it, but yeah. But do you guys know what I'm talking about? What's the famous like detective guy? Gonna do One Piece first, okay. You do you, bro. But look into One Piece. They basically take out all the fluff from One Piece and make it better. What's the famous detective guy? He has a sidekick. Come on, guys. You don't know him? I don't know him. I forgot his name. I'm gonna look it up. Famous detective guy. Yeah, Sherlock Holmes. Oh my god, Google helped me. Sherlock Holmes. It's like Sherlock Holmes trying to solve things that just, like, it's so BS. Yeah, I'll show you guys a clip. Sherlock Holmes BS. I wonder if I could find it like this. Bullshlaka? Everything wrong with Sherlock Holmes.
I was looking for a device that suppresses the sound of a gunshot.
It seems like he wore out his suppressor after a few shots. But, you know, what does context mean in the grand scheme of things?
Was he just trashing his apartment and shooting at the wall for 3 weeks? And it took Watson to come in and mildly suggest a new case for him to...
Okay, you guys get it. Well, I don't know.
My number 8 spot on my list. Most of these anime I picked, to be honest, are mainly just based off my true experience I'd had with them as a kid. I chose Death Note to be my number
That makes sense. It's just like personal,
8 because starting off my journey of anime as a kid, this one was the first, if not the first, psychological anime I came into contact with. Death Note fully had my gasp of attention into the series. I would always ask myself, is it possible for L to catch Kira? Typically, for the most part, I never took my eyes off the show and binged it a couple times, and after
Oh, I thought his thing would be the guy from My Hero, because that's the character he uses.
Each and every time. This is why Death Note deserves my number 8 spot on this list. Okay, next up is another one of my personal favorites, and actually, as I mentioned within the intro, that this right here is one of the gems in terms of the new generation of anime. Now, I also know that the manga has been out for a while now, and I think if I'm not mistaken, the manga has been out for 15 years now. But anyways, Vinland Saga to me...
Oh my god, yes! I did not expect that. Vinland Saga is amazing. It's one of my favorite, like, newer anime. It's a Viking anime. It's so freaking good. It's hard to rate it now because it hasn't finished. Only like 1 season or 2 seasons, I think, came out. Or no, I think only 1 season came out. I think it's amazing. I think it's like almost perfect. Like, it's so much good about this show.
Has never kept me so cultivated and thrilled to watch a fight.
I love
anime,
Viking,
especially in a short
Viking
amount of
themed
episodes
stuff.
of just 24. As of right now, not to mention the absolute monsters they have as characters throughout.
Yeah, the characters are so insane, and then just like the story actually goes by at a good pace. I feel like a lot of shows they drag out. Like if you look at there's a show like this, like an actual show. I think it's called Vikings actually. It's like a real life show. And it's like 40 minutes per episode. It drags on. And then you look at Game of Thrones. I feel like a lot of Game of Thrones just dragged on. There's a lot of shows that drag on. This gets to the point I really like this show. There's like 1 or 2 like slow episodes, but it was still like really good. In my opinion.
We have Thor, for example, who just in the first episode was already slaying out the whole damn sea with his sword, as well as Thorkel, who in itself is a literal tank. I mean, the man.
Even my dad was watching while me and my brother were watching. My dad was there and he was watching. That's how like good it is.
is so huge you could probably stack 4 people together just to fill a ball in his size. Oh, and yeah, I almost forgot the main protagonist himself, Thorfinn, who in my opinion has some of the craziest character development in anime. So if you have not watched Vinland Saga yet, I highly suggest you do.
Oh,
This next one on
so
the list
good.
doesn't really define obliterating people like in Vinland Saga, unless you're talking about obliterating someone on the court. You guys might know what this series
Basketball?
is. Yep, you guessed it.
Kuroko. Oh,
It's Haikyuu.
no.
Now,
Oh, yes! Yes! Oh my god, this guy has the best taste in anime. Bro, I was about to shit on him for choosing Kuroko's no basketball. Like, I couldn't get through the first two episodes of that show. Like, it was so BS. Like, if you have a sports anime, you can't make it too anime, where it just doesn't make sense, right? How do I relate? Oh, he's invisible. You can't see the character. It was so dumb. Haikyuu, I think, is my #1 favorite anime. Wait, let me show you this. Oh my god, bro. Oh, I feel like I did create this video. This is a volleyball anime. Look at this. Oh, guys, I don't know if I've told, if everyone has heard this. I got that from Japan, by the way. I don't know if everyone has heard this story, but when I was in college, I got so excited for this show that I got up from my chair and, like, I just had so much freaking energy. I was studying for finals once for like 20 hours or whatever, and I was getting tired in the library, in the school library, and I was falling asleep. And other people around me, they were taking drugs to stay awake. They were drinking coffee. You know what I did? I freaking put on, like, best scenes of this show, and it pumped me up so much that I was able to study longer. Haikyuu is amazing. Honestly, sports anime, I think, are very underrated for people who only watch shonen, because when I started to watch a few sports anime, I was like, Jesus Christ, how is this so good?
Now, this might come to a surprise to most of you, but I really love
Haikyuu is
volleyball,
so
but
good.
I don't love it too much to play the sport competitively, but I love to
I don't
watch
even
it.
play volleyball, and I love this anime.
Haikyuu was something that quickly bridged into my top 10 after seeing how well sports anime is done. I absolutely fell in love with the fact that it does not matter if you love the sport or not. Haikyuu makes you fall in love with the characters and how they play the sport. Especially within Haikyuu, it's not at all based around the main character and its rival. It's more based around every character that the main character comes into contact with. Literally,
I'm getting
90%
chills.
of the characters in the show all have personality and have a connection with the audience. And
Yes.
those are just some of the core features on why I put Haikyuu at the number 6 spot on my list. Moving
Oh
on
my
to the
God.
number 5 spot
Okay.
on this list, we have The Promised Neverland. And
Okay.
with only
I'm gonna be honest. I watched the first season of Promised Neverland. I thought it was really, really good, but I never watched the second season. I don't know. I'm not too much for these types of anime, but I think I should watch the second season. I thought it was a very, very good show. Let's see what he thinks. AFK for a bit? Okay.
only 12 episodes in the
Wait, you want me to AFK for a bit, or are you gonna AFK for a bit?
anime as of right now. The Promised Neverland's plot
Wait, when was this video? This video came out before. Oh, okay, 2020, before the second season came out.
characters, world, just everything about it had me so cultivated into watching the next episode. I've never seen myself so captured into a new generation anime, so much that it almost blew my mind away. You'll see when I tell you as I move down the line on this top 10 that it has almost been 6 years since I was so cultivated into a show. Immediately right after I had read the manga to find out what happens next. It was every episode that had me on my toes, and by the
tell
end
me
of
what
the episode
happens.
I was like, what? I mean, to put it simply, The Promised Neverland
Yeah.
was something I could only experience once in a lifetime. Like I said before, I mainly based this list off my true experience I've had with the anime itself. And honestly, if this anime had more episodes within the first season, I honestly would have to put this anime higher on the list, and this isn't even an exaggeration. Alright, so
It's interesting how he says that, because for me, it's like, I would have put Haikyuu for sure above that, just because of my personal experiences with like how much I just went crazy for that show. Like it got me so energetic, and I just loved it so much. So it's interesting to see everyone's like different opinions on it.
I know this one is going to upset most of my subscribers watching this video, and the number 4 spot on this list goes to Bleach. Bleach was honestly the last...
Okay, I'll be honest. Bleach is one of the only anime I didn't really watch. I watched like a bit of it, but I never got into it. I didn't really like it for some reason. That being said, if I really got into it and watched it, maybe it would be in my top 10 personally. But yeah, I don't even know Bleach well enough to say anything about it.
Last anime I watched out of the big 3, and already off the bat I fell in love with how many more likable characters there are than in Naruto. The story of Bleach is amazing, and I love how
Naruto's
some
great.
arcs aren't
What are
too
you
long
talking-
and they get straight to the point. Bleach, in my opinion, also has the best character designs within the big 3, and so it helped my attention span with the anime, if you know what I mean.
What the hell?
All jokes aside, I really do love Bleach.
I have to start watching Bleach.
I love pretty much everything about the series as a whole. I found the whole series funny and entertaining. I honestly think with a critic standpoint and a writer standpoint that the author Tite Kubo could have potentially give us longer fights within the series, especially Ichigo's fight with Aizen. Maybe if that was the case, Bleach would have taken my number 3 or maybe number 2 spot, if that. Moving on to the top 3 of this list.
He's gonna have Attack on Titan up there.
I briefly mentioned before within my channel once before, and that is of course JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Another anime I watched like the first episode and then never really continued. I didn't like how between the first and second episode it was literally like a huge time skip, so I just dropped it right away.
Now JoJo is something that I actually
I didn't give Bleach a fair chance either. I think I watched like 5 or 10 episodes and I kind of felt the same thing as you're saying, Aqua. It felt repetitive and kind of boring to me. But I'll be honest, I didn't like Naruto when I first started watching it, and like Naruto is like part of my life now, so I don't know.
Started quite late, and I believe I started it back when part 4 was airing, but dropped it fairly quickly, mainly because of the art style and not caring about the characters. Boy, was I wrong about both of those things. JoJo, just like most anime on this list,
I just know there's a lot of memes from this.
Rocketed to my top 10 just after part 3. Once I picked the show back up, I started to realize the true beauty that both characters and the artwork had to offer. I started to deeply fall in love with the color correlation that JoJo brought to the table. It took some time.
I wonder what he's gonna put top 2.
To me like a rolling stone.
What? I don't know what that meant. It's like a comedy and shonen, no?
JoJo's, I highly suggest you do both. The series is phenomenal and not gay at all. I just had to put that out there because it really isn't. People just say it is, but you know the gist if you watch.
What? Oh. What the hell?
But seriously, check out JoJo. It's a
That's
little
funny.
bizarre, but I'm sure it will grow on you. Next up on the list, we have a true anime and it's
Attack on Titan.
Attack on Titan.
Oh my god, am I a genius? I literally said before, watch Attack on Titan be like top 3. I think Attack on Titan is so overrated. People say it's like a masterpiece and stuff. Granted, I didn't read the manga, but I feel like there are a lot of plot holes or a lot of things they have to address for the final like half of the 4th season. And if they don't address those things, I could see it being like the ending could make or break the anime, I think, or like make it, in my head at least, a very good or like a good anime, you know? I think it's very overrated though. Watch my reactions on this channel though for the first half of the 4th season.
Now, I've mentioned this in the past in some of my previous videos, that Attack on Titan was one of the gateway anime I had as a kid. Having Attack on Titan as one of those few specific anime is very interesting.
I will say Attack on Titan is amazing,
It's
though.
really hard to explain, but I have had this feeling with only a couple of shows now. One of those being The Promised Neverland, which I've mentioned earlier on this list. But the feeling is something more or less cultivating into something that I literally had to find myself looking at and searching the whole internet to find out what happens next. If Attack on Titan, in your own opinion, is too gory for you, then honestly, I don't know what to say. The story itself...
I think Attack on Titan was my first anime. I started watching anime in high school. And spoiler alert, in the first episode where the mom literally gets eaten, I was legit like scared. I was in my room, it was dark. I was like, bro, what? And I was like, that's so cool. And then the main character, like, spoiler alert, dies early on, but then comes back. But it was like, they just killed off the main character like that? Like, I loved how different it was. And I think it's an amazing show. I still think it's overrated. Or overrated by people who like say it's like unmatched and a masterpiece and the best thing ever. It's just popular, that's why it's on the top. I don't know. Attack on Titan is very good in many regards, but I also couldn't get into it. It's too graphic for my taste. But speaking of graphic, will you react to Alice in Borderland? Probably not. I'm gonna be honest. Probably not. I've been I don't think I'm gonna react to more anime except like the end of Attack on Titan, because there's problems with reacting to anime, and honestly, I don't feel like it's very... I feel like it's very easy to just react. If I had something interesting to say about it, or to review an anime, maybe I would watch it for that. So, oh yeah, it's not anime, yeah. But it's still... Yeah, I remember you're trying to get me to watch it. It's still, like, reacting to, like, whole shows or... It's hard to put content like that on YouTube. That being said, I could do that. What's it called? I could like maybe if I start doing reviews of shows, like make a channel for reviews, then maybe, but probably not Aqua.
Stuff
Sorry.
is outstanding. The characters, the world building, and just everything about Attack on
Mikasa
Titan is
es
wonderful.
tu casa.
And yet has a psychological adventure. So if you ever have the time and have not watched or read even Attack on Titan,
Okay,
please
number
do yourself
one.
a favor and watch it. Trust me, you're in for a treat, a human one at that.
Number one guesses. Yeah, you did try. What is everyone's number one guess? Well, unless you saw the video. My number one guess is going to be... he seems like a younger guy because he said Attack on Titan was one of my first anime, so he's probably younger. He sounds like he's in mid to late teens. A lot of the shows here are like not older shows, even though he mentioned that he liked older anime better or whatever. So I think my assumption is it's gonna be like a newer show. Maybe. Oh, he keeps putting the guy My Hero Academia, whatever. I think he's gonna put that as his first. I don't think it's number one at all, but One Piece. Of course, One Piece.
Anime of all time, we have One Piece.
Oh, One Piece is trash! Oh my god. One Piece is so overrated as an anime. As a story, it's a very different conversation. And even then, it reminds me of Attack on Titan in the sense of if they don't tie up everything by the end, there's a lot of problems. But One Piece is amazing. It's great. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I have a bunch of figures from it, from winning them in Japan. I lived in the city where Oda was born. Believe me, I like One Piece. Okay? I watched every episode, except some of the filler ones. I'm up to date with it, anime-wise, but it is not the best anime of all time. If you're thinking of again, this is all subjective, but best anime, you got to think of the script, the dialogue of the anime, the animation style. Well, I guess that's subjective, but the way the story is, how many plot holes there are, but also how the story progresses, how quickly or slowly it progresses. Toei animations, it's like a 5-minute section is like stretched out to like an hour. Maybe that's exaggerating, but it's crazy. It's too much. Like, that's a big part of watching the anime. You have to watch through all these scenes that just take forever to resolve. At least for me, that's a big thing. What's the number one anime? I understand this list is subjective, right? And you can't really have an objective list, but my number one anime would probably be Haikyuu or Naruto. Dinal, you're coming at the end of the stream, essentially. Unfortunate. We're gonna end stream after this video. Come in, say.
I've definitely mentioned this before, and when I say, I really mean it. One Piece is and forever will be the best series in all of anime and manga, and I will take that to the grave. And I know what many of you guys are thinking. The
So
pacing in
dumb.
One Piece is absolute garbage.
Yes,
to me,
it is.
personally, if I enjoy a series enough, then pacing doesn't really matter to me. If anything, it benefits myself as a watcher. One Piece just in general...
Okay. Someone explain to me how this pacing benefits you as a watcher. I just want to understand. I don't even have this video prepped. I'm just looking up some random stuff. Can you watch 5 seconds? Oh, of course. I might stay a little longer for you, Dino. Mwah. By the way, one pace above is... Oh yeah, this might be a bit of a spoiler, but it doesn't really show much. The above portion is One Piece, which are people who basically took One Piece and cut out all the fluff to make it like easier to watch. And the bottom is what the original show actually is. Bruh! What is this? What is this? What is this? What? Okay, they finished their fight in 52 seconds on the top screen, okay? On the top screen, 52 seconds. Okay. On the bottom, they're still doing all of this. But wait, there's more. It goes on for 4 minutes. Like, the guy even sped it up. Oh. Oh no, it goes on for 3 minutes. It goes on for 3 minutes. It's like insane. And not every scene in One Piece is like this, obviously. A lot of it isn't. But like, it makes it very hard to watch sometimes. But that's just my personal opinion. Damn, I kind of want to buy one of those. This was Nathan's vid. Oh shit. Damn, that was good. If that was real, that's pretty crazy. Damn it, where were we? Here we were.
When we look at it from a perspective of someone who has no context in the show whatsoever, it is really cool and interesting to take that person on a journey that has so much detail along the way and so much history to go along with it. And
it has so much questions that go unanswered for like a literal year. And then I hate Attack on Titan does this a lot too. They introduce a question and then they answer that question much later. But that answer produces more questions. And that's cool. But when it's like for so long, it's very irritating. To me, at least. That's just how it is for me. I did that once, but with the tree. Nice. They should just make it into a season. Into season? Yeah, that one scene?
of course, nothing is perfect. One Piece does have some flaws that I can admit.
A lot of flaws
that make the show worse than what it can actually be. But as a whole, from the plot, the characters, and especially the world building,
the characters are also very one or two dimensional. I'm gonna get so much hate for this if people actually watch this video. But the characters are so one or two dimensional. Like, what? Like in some ways, they have nice backstories and stuff, but like they make the same joke over and over and over for like years. Like Zoro, green, he has moss hair. And that's what Sanji always says to him. Oh, your green hair, your moss hair. That's literally the same insult. I've heard it like 1,000 times by now. The one reason why I like Naruto a lot more than One Piece, one of the big factors, is because in Naruto, when I finish an episode, I feel like there was at least a mini lesson there. Something that was interesting to listen to think about. You think of the pain arc, you know? In One Piece, there's so much less of that. There's so many episodes just feel like, I don't know, like blah, you know? But that's just my opinion. There's a little thought B. That's legit me searching for answers, spoilers for AOT. I'll search for an explanation to a question, and just from that one explanation, I'll end up with 3 more questions. That's what I'm saying, bro. One Piece and AOT are very similar in that regard, which I don't like. And one might say, oh, that's because it's intellectual and stuff or whatever. And yes, to a degree for Attack on Titan, I guess, it's very complex. But with One Piece, it's a complex, big world. But some questions are simple questions that don't get answers for like years. And that's frustrating for me as a viewer. You climbed the tree? Jesus.
There's so much to One Piece than what meets the eye. I wanted to let you guys know that if you ever wanted to find an anime that could give you all those things but better, then watch and or read One Piece. Because honestly,
read
I know
One
this
Piece.
video is about the top 10 anime of all time, but both the anime and the manga for One Piece is absolutely amazing.
Wait, guys, he literally did put Boruto at number 9. Which is fine, but it's just funny.
They're both a beautiful and just a journey in itself. And honestly, you would be doing yourself a favor just by watching and or reading the GOAT One Piece. And that about wraps it up for the top 10 anime of all time. I feel like with each and every single one of
the number
these
one was
animes,
cringe.
they hold a special place within me, and without them,
To me.
I don't know what the gap would be filled with. These anime in particular hold a very special place in my heart that I'm forever so grateful for, and I'm just glad that they all exist. Anyways, everybody, that is going to be it for the video. I really do appreciate if you managed to make it this far, and if you didn't...
Yo, okay. Now, this is what I think. Great video. Maybe I should make my own list because I've been bashing it so much. But I think overall his choice of top 10 was pretty good. I would agree with a good amount of it. Maybe not in that order, but yeah. I like a lot of those anime. Thanks for watching, and see you guys next time. Just kidding, I'm still here. That's just for the YouTube video. One of those three are guaranteed never answered because there's... Yes, true. That's why I was saying before, like, if Attack on Titan / One Piece answer all the unanswered questions in a good way and they could tie everything together, I think they're amazing anime. That being said, I don't think that's possible. Especially for both, to be honest. Attack on Titan is gonna end soon. I don't know how they're gonna answer certain things, but it's gonna be very interesting. One Piece, I honestly don't know. I don't think they're gonna be able to push everything together. Damn, you guys have a lot of points. What happened to Showdown or community games? No, that was just for the video. Yeah, never mind. Yeah. Thoughts on My Hero Academia? I think it's a great show. A bit overrated by people who think it's amazing, but I guess that's everything, right? Like, it's subjective, but I think it's great. I think the animation is amazing. For some of the fight scenes, it's just amazing to look at, to watch. Very fun. I think it's a great show. Yeah, I don't think they got to the power creep level yet, where like the main characters are insanely strong for no reason. Well, they kind of did, but I think it still has a lot to go. So I'm interested in seeing what'll happen next. I think it's a pretty good show in general, though. Stop. I'll be at 93.5k after I win. Wait, you guys serious? You want to bet 20k? I can't control it. Other people can bet more, you know? This is on a heads or tails, right? Okay, let's start a prediction. Heads or tails? Heads and tails. No, sir. Oh, I guess not everyone's agreeing to that.
Itasha was just an excuse for people to put...
This looks like a great video. Do you know?
Here's a fun fact.
Yeah, I have to... Can you guys send these videos for next week? They look amazing. I think I'm gonna end here. Unfortunately. I'm not betting shit. I will bet. Alright, I'll start the prediction. Heads on or tails. After this, we're gonna end stream, unfortunately. Please send these videos though. They look fun. See, I think the food theory ones are great because we could like converse and like argue or whatever. I like that personally. I think like anime related is great. The one that DNL just sent, stuff like that. You guys aren't betting much. Nah, that was like nothing. That was nothing. That was all your points? That was all his points. It was 10 against 432. Doctor voted 10 too. Yeah, I'm gonna give you guys your points. Thanks for watching, guys. It was really fun. I'm actually happy we went 1 hour over today because it was fun. That's genuinely why. I mean, it's not like it's always fun. Like I always like streaming, or almost always. But yeah, it was more fun than usual today. Yeah, you were too late. Come on. Oh, were you actually gonna? Well, he only has 400 points to gamble. I know how AOT is gonna answer certain things because I'm from the future. By never answering them. Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised. It's more fun when I don't... No! It's fun when you come. Haha, that's what she said. But, yeah, it's just because of the timing. That being said, I am going to start streaming earlier on. Not later, most likely, but earlier on in the future when we're actually, you know, making a living on YouTube/Twitch. But that might be a long time. Yeah, I don't read the manga. All right. Good night, y'all. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for chilling. And have a great night. Mwah. I have infinite points. I made manga. Wait, we should rate... No, it's too late. No, it's too late. Bye-bye. Bye, guys.